evening, Friday evening or morning or whatever, wherever you are tuning in. I am joined by my dear friend, the incredible Alan Rule. We're going to be talking about a video that was put out by Eastern Orthodox apologist Kyle King a little while back. Of course, he put it out. When he put it out, I was incredibly busy preparing for a debate against Jake the Muslim. I didn't have time to respond back then. Now I've got a little bit more time on my hands. Been able to go over the video, look at the video, and I am thrilled to be here with my dear friend Alan. Before we dive in, Alan, my brother, how have you been, my friend? I believe you are on mute, my friend. Unless it's on my end. There you go.
All right, can you hear my Canadian voice?
There you go, brother. I can hear your Canadian voice, brother.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I've been well. I've been well. I've had a lot on the go here. It's freaking freezing up here, but you know, comes with the territory.
Yeah, not over here. Not over here in Texas where I'm at. Definitely not freezing. But yeah, you know, man, it's been a minute since we've been on the air together. I'm glad to be back with you, brother. Glad to have you here. You're the man when it comes to the Crusades and history, and you do great work in the papacy as well. Happy to be here with you. Now, I'm happy to finally get around to addressing Kyle's video as well. I was a little bit disappointed by it. I want to let the audience know a little bit of the background before we dive in. I knew Kyle. I know Kyle. Consider him a friend. We did, I believe, a few shows before he converted to Orthodoxy. And one thing that I said many months ago about Kyle King, was that I didn't view it as such a disappointment that he converted to Orthodoxy. I said, well, maybe we're going to have a charitable, logical voice on the other end, because it's so hard to find, number one, knowledgeable Eastern Orthodox, and number two, those that are willing to have intellectual and charitable dialogue. Very hard to find them. So I said, you know what? I think Kyle is going to perhaps provide that to be a very good interlocutor, be a good person to engage with. And I have to say, that I was very, very underwhelmed with the video. Disappointed. Now, it wasn't polemical. I don't think he came out attacking anybody in particular, but the fact that, you know, you get an idea of what Kyle King is reading, the lack of real work that he's really putting in, it's a little bit disappointing to me. What were your thoughts on that video, brother?
Well, to be honest, I didn't even know who Kyle King was until I heard it. A few months back, it was all over YouTube that, a Catholic YouTuber's becoming Orthodox. I'm like, oh, who is it? They're like Kyle King, and I didn't really know about. So I learned this all from watching Michael Lofton's stream, and so I go to King's YouTube and
one moment. Let me interrupt briefly. Did Michael reply to him, to Kyle King?
Yeah, like the day that he apostatized, he's the one who.
Oh, my bad. I thought you meant he replied to this video. Okay. Go ahead, brother. I apologize.
I don't know if he has or not. He could have. I don't know if he. I don't follow his channel too much.
Right.
But I don't think I've heard anyone respond to this particular one.
I don't think they have.
I'm talking about when he originally came out and said that he was apostatizing.
Sure, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I looked at some of his stuff. He's a Chesterton fan. He's a Tolkien fan. I mean, I've kind of always thought Tolkien is overrated. I know a lot of Catholics are going to hate me for that, but whoops, said the quiet part loud. But you know, and then he's like, well, you know, I want a stable place, and the thing is, I kind of had a chuckle because a couple months after that, I went back and watched it again, and he's like, I know what Orthodoxy is going to look like in 100 years. I can't say the thing about the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And then, but in that 2 months after that, the Orthodox Church in Africa had started ordaining female deacons.
Right. I mean, they sure did.
Keep in mind this whole, you know, we never change. That's not true. And it's never been true. I know these online ortho bros try to like advertise that we're the church that doesn't change, but when you study the history of the Byzantine Empire and frankly the Ottoman Empire and Russia, you realize that there is no consistent sacramentology or ecclesiology in their church since schism. None. It's all over the place. And it seems to be, and I'm going to get into this a bit more, basically, as long as the Pope's not involved, it's Orthodox.
Yeah, I gather that as well. You make a very good point there. And right now, what I've been doing, and I plan to air them later, I'm not done yet with the videos. I've been recording multiple videos examining the Confession of Disitheus. Now, what is that? For people that may not know, that comes from the Council of Jerusalem, which was the council that by and large responded to Protestantism after Cyril of Car became a Calvinist. So I've been going line by line, decree by decree, and looking at the critical texts of the Confession of Disitheus. And if anything, the one thing that I've noted many times before, even looking at that council, was how much Eastern Orthodoxy has evolved from the faith of their fathers. I've been saying that for a very long time. Kyle posted a clip of me saying that. It's a popular quote bite of mine. I'm going to repeat it again, even more so now as I dig in deeper into the Confession of Disitheus and looking at their earlier councils, including their Palamite teachings. I am very, very familiar with Eastern Orthodoxy. I read their firsthand source material, and if anything, they have evolved a massive amount, Alan, a massive amount, to where even they're at their Synod of Jerusalem, where they're trying to defend Orthodoxy against Protestantism. A lot of the things that they believed there, good luck finding Eastern Orthodox that believe things today from that council. And then you may say, well, hey, how can you guys reject synods of yours, pan-Orthodox synods at that? Okay, so what is authoritative for you all? And at the end of the day, you're not going to get a straight answer. There is no uniformity. There is nothing of the sort in Eastern Orthodoxy. For people that think there is, they don't know what they're talking about. They leave Catholicism, Alan, because they see Pope Francis. Oh, man. Oh, he's a terrible, terrible, bad Pope. I'm going to go where there's stability and this and this, this and that. I'll tell you what is stable in Eastern Orthodoxy. The fact that you're not going to hear anything on the media, because the media doesn't care about Eastern Orthodoxy. Because, I hate to break it to people, your church is not growing rapidly. Your church does not evangelize. Your church
it's not growing at all. It's not growing
at all. At all.
Because if you take a look at the countries that they're in, those countries have like some of the lowest birth rates on the planet. They've not expanded beyond those countries. And now it's true, a lot of Catholic countries in Europe have bad birth rates and low church attendance as well. But sure. I mean, we're a global faith. Take a look in Africa. You had 2 million African Catholics in 1900. There are about 250 million today, and it's rapidly growing.
Very rapidly.
Not to mention in other parts of the world. The truth is, Eastern Orthodoxy is shrinking. You have some loud converts in the West. Yeah, and like loud, but they're few in number. In fact, I was interacting with one yesterday. And you've been to Germany quite a bit, right?
Oh yeah, every year, multiple times, going again soon.
Yeah, like I've been to Germany, I think 4 times. I've been all over. I've been to the north. I've been, Kiel, Hamburg, Berlin, Kaiserslautern, Frankfurt, Munich, all over. And this one guy's like, oh, according to this Greek monk, there's a high chance that they're going to be the first Western European country to become Orthodox. And I'm like, look, I've been all over Germany, and so have you.
Yeah, I don't know what they're drinking. They're drinking something spiked.
Yeah, if you go to Germany, there's no Orthodox there. There's about 1.5 million Russians who are, have moved there, but they taught to Russian expats how often they go to church. Yeah. And amongst the native German people, there's nothing. They're basically lapsed Protestant and Catholic.
Yeah. And let me tell you one other thing, Alan. The fastest growing group of individuals, at least in America, the Latino community, I know this because I live in Texas, massively growing community. And I've been to Mexico multiple times to give talks. I live near the border. I can tell you right now, the idea that Eastern Orthodoxy is growing over there, it's laughable. They don't even know who the Eastern Orthodox are. They don't know who they are, Ellen. I'm not kidding with you. I'm being honest. In the chat right now, very likely there may be some Latino American. Maybe they know who the Orthodox are because they watch my channel. But people that attend my classes that I give around Texas, they have no clue who the Eastern Orthodox are. They're like, oh, well, those are Catholic people in different garb. They've got no clue. Do you think Eastern Orthodox does evangelization? They don't. They do not do a lot of evangelization. But, I mean, let me be honest. Not like that refutes the video put forth. We're gonna dig into the video. We're gonna look at the video, and there are arguments that would put forth. I be honest, I have no idea what Kyle said to Trent or Jimmy. I have no clue. I looked at the arguments he levied towards me. I don't know what he said to Trent or Jimmy. They can deal with that if they want. But we're gonna go over some of the stuff he said. If you've got the timestamps, I have a few on my end. Look at that. Ariane Victor says. Where is it? I am from Brazil. I only know the Orthodox from you guys on YouTube. No doubt. I'm telling you, you know about them because of us. But over there in your community, they don't do evangelization. Look at
like
this.
There might be like one or two small Orthodox churches in like a city of 20 million people, like Paulo or Rio or something. But it's not like they're nowhere out. They're nobody outside of their like 8 or 9 countries where they're the majority, and they're shrinking in those due to horrible demographics, low church attendance.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the interesting thing here is the idea of Eastern Orthodoxy exploding in growth. I think that they wish that was the case. They wish that was the case. It simply is not the case at all. I know people near me that in order to get to an Orthodox parish, they've got to travel several hours. And that tells you everything. It really does tell you everything about it.
Yeah, no, it's not growing. Sure, there's a few more catechumens in the small amount of churches in America. Okay. But it's frankly not going anywhere. They can have their delusion. They don't have the resources, at least outside of their 8 or 9 traditional countries. They don't have the resources. They don't have schools. They don't have hospitals. They don't have a large amount of parishes. They just got a small amount of parishes and a couple big influencers. They don't have any politicians. They're going nowhere. It's a fantasy. These people are smoking crack, thinking their church is going through the roof. And Germany's going to become Orthodox. America, Mexico, Latin America, Africa. No, guys, it's not happening. You guys are barely going to hold on to your own countries, which have. I've been to 4 or 5 Eastern. Have you ever been to an Orthodox country?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I sure have.
They're like their churches are like their church attendance rates are abysmal.
They're terrible. They are.
Like in Ukraine. Have you ever been to Ukraine?
Ukraine, I have not been to. No.
Okay, if you go to Ukraine, if you go to places like Odessa and places like that, places that are purely Orthodox, very few people go to church. Mm-hmm. If you go to the far west of Ukraine, where it's Catholic, where it's Byzantine Rite Catholic, like my mom is, way higher church attendance there. It's still not as high as I'd like, obviously, but we don't have their problem.
No, and another thing that I've noticed, Alan, is very often in the online world, and this goes for online Orthodox that have YouTube channels, very often the people that have converted to Orthodoxy, they don't know their own faith. And at times, I'm shocked, stunned at it. I could tell you, Kyle, before he became Orthodox, and a few people that know me very well know that I said, even before he announced his conversion, when I was privy to certain things he was saying online, I said, that guy's got 2 feet, he's got almost his whole body out the door because of the statements he was making and the statements about his own faith that he makes. He's oblivious to a lot of his own beliefs. He just simply doesn't understand, hasn't done the work to understand. So I think Kyle felt very disappointed with Pope Francis. And by virtue of that disappointment of Pope Francis, he thought he was going to find somewhere where the grass is greener on the other side. And hey, if he is doing healthier and his family's doing great, God bless him. I wish him well. Still consider him a friend. I am just very disappointed with the material he's putting out. I don't think it's robust. But to that point, and I mean no disrespect at all, I don't think Kyle has ever attempted to put forth robust theological information. Kyle very often deals with C.S. Lewis, Lord of the Rings. All more power to him. He is way ahead of any of us. There's great from what I've seen. I don't know anything about that stuff. But then when he delves into the papacy, you can tell he's not done the research. You can tell he's not done the hard work. And you can tell because he makes blunder after blunder after blunder. And one of the blunders he makes, he quotes from a work from St. Gregory of Nyssa, where I'm wondering, well, where did Kyle get that quote from? Very clearly, all Kyle did was Google stuff, went to Eric Abar's website, and our mutual friend Eric unfortunately made an error there in posting the source of Gregory of Nyssa, and all Kyle did was copy and paste that error, posted it on his video without knowing any better. That shows me that Kyle's not doing any real work. And I am bummed out because anytime you're going to put forth a video with patristic quotes, replying to me, you better do your homework, because I'm going to bust you if you get your quote wrong, or I'm going to bust you if you get your location wrong, and I'm going to bust you and I'm going to remind you to the end of time. So by virtue of him, and I wondered, why did he get it wrong? I Googled it. There you go. Hit number one, Eric Abar. By the way, Eric, the quote is a great one. Eric probably just put one wrong number there. So it ended up being the wrong location. And what Kyle did, rather than going and checking the source, copied and pasted it, thought it would help his case. Even worse, Kyle, who doesn't know a lick of Greek, has no idea of the context of the quote. Later on, I have translated that quote. Later on, we'll look at that and see how it just really does not support his case at all. But go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. I've been speaking too long.
Well, I don't think Kyle, like has Kyle read Eric Abar's book?
Highly doubt it. I doubt it.
See, me, there is only, for me, I'm all primary sources, right? I don't like to do the quote mines. But there is one papacy book I've read, and it's the one book I recommend to anyone. And I don't think Kyle King has read this book.
Right.
I think you know the book I'm talking about too. It's
I hope
On the Roman Pontiff by St. Robert Bellarmine.
That's a great one. You know what? There's another really good one. Let me tell you. I want to get the title right. That is a great one. But there's another one that I love, Alan. It is old school. And if anybody, one of these days, me and you, we've got to do a show on the books, the best books on papacy, Mariology, and everything. We got to do a show one of these days. By the way, Fadi, God bless you. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Thank you, brother. God bless you. Your support helps us a ton. Thank you so much. For everybody that are members, God bless you all. The other book, Alan, whoa, you are awesome, brother. Thank you for that. You gifted 5 memberships. God bless you, brother. And whoever got those memberships, please say thank you. God bless you, brother. Alan, tell me you've heard of the book, The Shepherd and the Rock. You heard of that one?
Yeah, in fact.
No, you got it. You got it, man. How can you not be recommending that one? By the way, if you don't have that book I just listed, oh, there you go. That is a very hard to find. That's a great book. Alan,
it's written
how are
by
you not
a fellow
recommending?
Canadian.
Yeah, I know. How are you not recommending that one, Alan?
Well, because it's not as good as St. Robert Bellarmine, that's why.
Oh, but then again, that's you're putting up against a titan.
Yeah, that's creme de la creme. Yeah, we're talking.
Yeah, come on, Robert Bellarmine is the man.
Well, you know why I purchased this book?
Did you get it for a good price? Because usually that book, let me tell the audience before, a lot of the times that book online is like $150 or $200. If you can find it, a few days ago, I found it discounted used, and I bought a whole bunch of them. If you can ever find that for a good price, don't even wait a minute. Buy it now. That will go out of. It is out of print. It will sell out, and you're never going to get another copy.
Yeah, it's out of. I don't know why it's out of print. Like me, I got it for about $40 Canadian.
I got it for $14. 4 copies the other day. I think there's 2 copies left on Amazon. If anybody's watching right now, we got 198 watching. If you don't get the copies right now, you will kick yourself to the end of time. Let me tell you why, audience. I'm going to tell you why. That book, The majority of the year is either nowhere to be found or for nearly $200. That is a first-rate book on the papacy. I very rarely recommend papacy books. Very rarely, because a lot of them are quote mines or don't have great information. That one is one of the very few that I heavily recommend.
Well, you know where I first heard of this book?
Where's that?
When like a few years ago, when Michael Lofton he had Ibarra on, and
we compiled that list of the best books. Yes.
He started with his top 10, and I made sure to read all the top 10. I read all those.
Great book. One of the very few that I can tell people, amazing book. What a great book. But so there's a few papacy books I definitely highly recommend people get their grubby fingers on. They're very good. Yeah, once more, I want to thank Al Fadi again. Fadi ex-Muslim, God bless you for gifting those memberships. You're such an awesome guy. Okay, so brother, you let me know when you want to dive in. If you've got a particular timestamp, I got a few that I want to look at. And another thing that I will look at, I've got a few slides as well that will pop up. Let me know. Do you know the time markers, or I got a few time markers on my end if you want to pop it up?
I just say put up the whole video, and if something interests
novel,
you,
or to be not just a
okay.
Ultimately, the bishops inherit the office of Peter, as we'll see here shortly. Whereas this ancient sees like Rome, Antioch, Alexandria, these are Petrine sees. Peter helped start them, but they are actually apostolic headquarters that help the church stay organized and be unified together. They participate more so in the mission of Peter. Another way to think of it is like this, an abbot of a...
Yeah.
This is really shallow stuff. Like it's painful almost to listen to this.
Yep.
Has he not ever heard anything we put out that I put out? That this is talked about by post-schism popes, by Pope Innocent III. In fact, one time I was on Swan Sona's channel. He planned to have 3 people on the papacy. He planned to have Ibarra, Elijah Yassi, and Lofton. And both Lofton and Elijah Yassi backed out at the last minute. So I had to fill in for both. Big shoes to fill there. But no, I dealt with this. And I showed that this is even acknowledged by Pope Innocent III.
Right.
In talking to the Crusaders, the Fourth Crusade.
Right.
Because and like it's talked about in the Crusade Chronicles. Like you often hear, what they don't tell you is Peter was the bishop of Antioch prior to the bishop of Rome. And if you actually read Catholic documents from, let's say, the time of the schism to now, everyone knows that. In fact, the Crusaders, before they captured Jerusalem, they captured Antioch on the way down. And they sent a letter to the Pope. And it's like, hey, we got the city where Peter was bishop before he went to your city.
Wow. Yep.
Because these people don't read. All they do is watch live streams by people like sadly Jay Dyer.
Yeah, and to be very honest, you're going to see right now the kind of stuff that Kyle has been watching. Find it very lamentable. You're going to see where he's getting his information from.
Monastery. He's sacramentally equal to his brother monks and priests. But canonically, the way that the framework of a monastery is set up, he is their father, he is their abbot, and they owe him obedience. Sacramentally, he is...
Yeah, the one thing that Kyle doesn't touch upon, and maybe he does in another video, that's perfectly fine. In the future, we can look at other videos. But if any of his other videos in the papacy are anything like this one, I can't expect anything better. But what Kyle clearly doesn't touch upon is the biblical evidence for the papacy or the early patristic evidence at all. Just clearly making statement after statement after statement. Well, where is your evidence in early church history? Where is your biblical evidence for what you're laying out? It simply isn't there. It isn't there.
Well, and the thing is, when we counter with our biblical evidence, what I do, and I imagine you do as well, and what we're going to do in this video, is we're not going to just back it up with church father quotes. we're going to back it up with how ecumenical councils have interpreted those.
There you go.
So that's why a tactic I always use when dealing with Eastern Orthodoxy, I'll tell them that Luke 20:32 applies to the Roman Pope. And they're like, that's ridiculous. And then I'm like, okay, how come Pope Agatho gives a detailed exegesis about, and he's saying by helping out with his letter, he's fulfilling that role, and that his predecessors, the apostolic pontiffs, have all done the same thing.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and they're like, well, it's not in the canons, so I can ignore it. That's what they say. Or
Ridiculous.
A new argument they've come up with. Pope Agatho was wrong.
Yeah, no doubt. That's
I don't know.
the next step that they can. The next step in which they go, and it's an unfortunate direction. It really is, because look, if you're going to claim that Pope Saint Agatho was wrong, or that any of these popes are wrong, well, they're making these particular statements at councils that we hold in common. We have these councils in communion with one another, and it was when East and West were united. So don't give me that malarkey that the East never agreed to the papal claims. And the one thing the Eastern Orthodox love doing is putting up Father Price when we had him on the air. Here's the problem. We don't agree with Father Price. He got it wrong on the air. But here's their problem.
He's a liberal modernist.
He's a liberal modernist, but here's their problem. In published works, he doesn't agree with anything that they're putting forth. He teaches that the East taught papal supremacy. And do I think that Kyle has read anything Father Price has put out? No, I don't. I hate Kyle. You're a brother, my friend. But I don't think you're doing any primary work at all. I don't think you've read Father Price. And maybe he'll come back and say, hey, I've got Father Price's book here. Well, then you should at least have tried to refute my points I made on Second Nicaea. You didn't touch him. You didn't want to touch him with a 100-foot pole.
Well, he's going to throw like I think if you got this properly tuned, he's going to throw out a key source that he uses. A book
I know. Yeah. Let me put it up. I don't want to spoil it for the audience yet.
Okay.
It's equal to them, but they've given him authority to play this role in the monastery, and that's much closer to how the Orthodox would view what a patriarch is and what a pope is, which is the same word, by the way.
Moreover, the alleged historical contradictions that the Orthodox raise against Catholics also
report to the whole to us.
Did I pass it over?
Rhyme about Roman Catholicism.
There you go.
Book The Rise and This is why they are wrong or have distortions, but rather there needs to be much more of a positive case. And there are many books out there. I think many more need to be written. One example would be Craig Trulia's book, The Rise and Fall of the Papacy. This book is not a negative.
What if you read that book?
Yeah, I went through a little bit of the ebook edition. I went through a little bit of it. Very, very bad. Really bad. You know, let me be clear for the audience. Craig Trulia is one of the very worst there is. He is one of the worst. And I'll tell the audience very briefly. I became aware of Trulia back when he was part of the old R&T, right before I joined R&T. The very first show, and it's still around, that I did with the group of guys with Trulia was on a topic of purgatory, and we ended up speaking about the deuterocanonical books. I was shocked after the show that I was told that Craig Trulia was an Eastern Orthodox representative on that show. I couldn't believe it. I talked to Michael, I talked to Eric, I couldn't believe my eyes. There's no way, I said. Craig Trulia is a Protestant. There's no way this guy's Eastern Orthodox. How are you telling me if everything this guy is spewing is Protestantism? Sure enough, I would later find out that he was a radical Protestant, became so-called Eastern Orthodox, and retained much of his beliefs of Protestantism. So there you go. There you go. And Craig Trulia would later proceed to provide quote mines against the Marian dogmas, utilizing fake quotes and Google Translate. That is the kind of material, the kind of robust theology you get from Trulia. He is one of the worst. The idea that Kyle King is holding up a book which is so atrocious that I cannot even begin to get into it. You have got to buy into one of the greatest conspiracy theories ever created in the mind of a wacko in order to believe that book. And in a bit, if you don't talk about it, I'll talk about the conspiracy theory. Let me be clear on one thing. In order to lay forth that conspiracy theory that Trulia puts forth in his book, you got to at least be proficient in Greek. Craig Trulia knows a big fat zero bit of Greek, none of it.
Well,
so the fact that Kyle is relying on him for his masterful theological information, Kyle, I'm very disappointed because Craig Trulia is Jack Chickian level.
Well, you said he's one of the worst. I actually think, and this is telling, he's one of the best.
That says a lot. That says a lot.
Compared, yeah, because like keep in mind, I'm talking about all the people online. Like I did a ranking video on Eastern Orthodox apologists, and I rated him fairly high. He's not the top, but he's and like look, I've always been on good terms with Trulia. I got nothing personal against him.
Sure.
I've been on his show a couple times. Very cordial. I just don't think. I don't think his arguments are there. Like he has,
not at all.
He had this argument that was his like go-to. It's the
where I know where you're going. Yeah,
his trump of ace or ace of trump or whatnot, and it is the Pope Martin argument where it's like power was lacking, and like that's all you got. You got that tiny quote, and it came up, and then since I've actually read all the epistles involved in the monothelite controversy with Pope Martin, I just kind of did the video and showed, I widened the context.
Yeah.
And I gave it the coup de grace. I gave it the honorable burial that it is. And frankly, I don't know if anyone is using that anymore. I've not heard it used since, but keep in mind, I don't spend too much time online. So
yeah.
What conspiracy theory are you talking about? Because I can think of a couple.
The thing that the whole book is based upon. Anastasia's a librarian. It's ridiculous. Stupidity. Let me read to you. And the fact that Father Peter hears, man, Father Peter, I feel sorry for you, buddy. You must be desperate to publish that book. You must be desperate. But then again, you have virtually no support. And I'm not shocked at the end of the day that Father Peter hears. By the way, Father Peter, the debate challenge is still out there anytime you want to take it up. Immaculate Conception, Purgatory, whatever you want, still out there. Let me go ahead and read. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Well, and I just came back to Craig for a second. When like he focused a lot about the fathers, but when he gets to the medieval era, and he gets to the investiture controversy, because that's where a lot of these apologists likes to think the modern papacy came from. Like, I honestly don't think he has read in depth the primary sources. Like, he's talking about, so-and-so from France opposed investiture.
Yeah.
No one opposed investiture. The idea is who controls investiture, the church or the secular lords, like the Holy Roman Emperor and people like that. So it's who controls investiture. Both sides believed in investiture. Yep. And I think because, I mean, he cuts it off at Anastasius. He's like, well, that's where it comes from. And so I get the impression, again, I don't want to sound condescending, but I think he kind of looks at church history post that as kind of like a fill in the blank, and it's all going down this path I've created. Of course, I would dispute that path ever existing, and so would you. But I don't buy into the whole thing of Anastasius for a second.
Yeah. Now, can you lay out what that argument is for the audience in case they don't know? I imagine you're aware of it, right?
Yeah. Of course, I read the book and I saw his live stream on it. It's basically that papal infallibility comes from this man.
Yep. And
he did a few things, but one of the key things was he popularized the pseudo-Isidorian decretals, which were invented to... He's correct when he points out that they were not invented to bolster papal claims, but to reform canon law in the church in France, as far as I know. Anyway, that's and then he kind of popularized this, and then he kind of unofficially canonized it. That's what I think. Is that what you got?
Yeah, well, there's also his grandiose claim that it was Anastasia that invented the papacy, basically as we know it, because of forgeries and what have you. You know, he was a great librarian. Let me read the description from Uncut Press itself. Anastasia's a librarian, once shrouded in mystery. This backroom actor rises from the status of laicized cleric to anti-pope, and finally to the puppet master behind the most influential papal chanceries of the 9th century. Due to this man's extensive work, the papacy was reinvented, and Western Christianity has never been the same since. I hate to break it to you, but the papacy existed well before Anastasius ever came onto the scene. And the idea that he reinvented the papacy, the idea that this grand scale of forgeries even came into being, would require that Trulia have at least a little grasp of Greek, and he doesn't. If you are unable to do any work in the primary first-hand source material, don't put forth a conspiracy theory like that. My other issue is you can look all throughout early church history. Alan, yourself, you, myself, and I forget who else. Eric? Was it Eric? We've done a show on Pope Clement of Rome. So we've looked at the papal claims in Pope St. Clement of Rome, and we can look and point to many claims all throughout history. The arguments there in that book really simply just don't hold up.
Yeah, and I think and he's also come up with something else. Now, he came up with this after the book, so it's not in the book, but he did this YouTube thing on it, and he tries to say that there's a textual variant in Pope Agatho's letter to the council. But the thing is, that variant is only, like you talked about the Trulia not knowing Greek. It's only a variant among the Greek manuscripts. There's some Greeks that have it. Sure. And all the early Latin have it. All the 7th and 8th century Latin copies have it, which he'd have written in Latin. A lot of the Greek has it. Some Greek doesn't. But even then, even if we say that this variant is it's probable, it still doesn't matter, because better stuff in Pope Agatho's letter. It's not like there's one verse in Pope Agatho's letter. There's Pope Agatho's letter it's trouble if you're not Catholic. Just say it, Alan. If you're not Catholic, Pope Agatho's trouble. Now, Protestants and Orientals, they just say too little, too late. You know, but but it's not that kind of hand waving is not as easy for the Eastern Orthodox. Well, yeah, because for Craig Trulia and Kyle King and people like that, and I ironically, if you've read the book, it sounds like you have Craig Trulia's book. He's got the section on Pope Agatho is very short. Yes, but clearly, why? I don't think he wants you to read it. I mean, because if you just go and read this letter, you're in trouble. If you're Eastern Orthodox, you are in trouble. Massive. You read Agatho or you read Adrian, you're in deep, deep trouble as an Eastern Orthodox. And the video that I did a video examining Second Council of Nicaea, and I went ahead and I went along with the lines, the arguments that Trulia makes and others, where they try and argue that, the Greek edition is better because they didn't agree with the Latin rendition of the letters of Hadrian. Fine. I examined the Greek. Even in the Greek, even in the shorter Greek, the papal claims are there. Any which way you look, the papal claims are there at Second Nicaea. They agree to papal supremacy. They agree to papal infallibility. They're in a big bind today, having moved away from that. I'm being honest. Yeah, because if I quote Pope St. Martin, if I quote Pope Martin and say, look, this is Vatican I, they can say, if one Pope says it, it's no biggie. But the thing is, what we've done, and a tactic I always use with Eastern Orthodox is, I say, look at the ecumenical councils, how they interpret it. And those are from the ecumenical councils. That's the thing. Yes, if there's a quotes here and there or a local council even, yes, that's not going to be fully binding. But the ecumenical councils, that's why people have to resort to things like Agatho's wrong, or we can ignore Agatho. Because you can't square Agatho with Eastern Orthodoxy. Impossible.
You cannot. You can't. Nor can you do that with Hadrian. You can't do it.
No, you can't.
Though the issues that we run into are this, and this is an area where I will give a tip of the hat, where I think truly is far ahead of the rest of the individuals, and that, to me, that's not saying a lot. But in the fact that Trulia knows that the debate doesn't hinge upon quoting one father or two or three. It doesn't. So for Catholics to think, well, I can quote St. John Chrysostom, he said this, he said that. Yeah, but you guys need to know how the Eastern Orthodox think. And if you don't know how they think, you don't realize that they're going to hand wave it. They don't care. They're going to agree, oh, well, yeah, we agree with that. Oh, yeah, we agree with that. But then you get to the nitty gritty of an ecumenical council where we were united. And you look and you break down the papal claims there, and they're in trouble. Because you can quote Luke 22 until you're red in the face, and they're going to just say, well, we don't agree with that reading. But then you show how it was interpreted by an ecumenical council, and they're in trouble. They're in trouble. That is why Trulia knows the councils are where the issue is. That is why he is doing his best to revise church history. And thus far, at least he's trying to do a better job than the others. I'm not aware of others attempting to do that. I know that now, in terms of scholarship, Father Ramsey is another level. Truly, it's not even worthy enough to tie his shoelaces. But Father Ramsey won't make those arguments. He'll try to make a more nuanced route, because even Father Ramsey, who is a top-notch scholar, realizes the problems that they're in. Now, then, when we look at the rest of the Eastern Orthodox world, they're playing Connect Four. They don't even know what the deal is. They don't know what the arguments are. They don't know what they're meant to believe. So.
Remember when Eric Ibarra, it's an old video, but it's still on YouTube, had his informal debate, discussion, etc. with Jay Dyer.
Oh, man.
And he brought out Pope Agatho.
Crushed him.
And Jay Dyer, his only answer was Pope Agatho is Orthodox because he's Orthodox. He's not Orthodox because he's Pope.
Yeah.
And
it's just... Yeah, Dyer is out of his element. Dyer doesn't know the papacy. Shouldn't even have been there on that panel. Shouldn't have been there.
Well, and I don't think there's an Orthodox answer. I'll tell you why. Because the circumstances about how they went into schism.
Mm-hmm.
I'll explain this. In 1054, and I'm going to say this, of course, you know, but a lot of people don't know. What was the big issue in 1054? Yeah. It was the unleavened bread.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. A thing, by the way, the Orthodox don't even bring up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice that, they've essentially conceded. Not actually concede, but they've de facto conceded by the fact that they don't bring it up anymore, and we still do that. Well, yeah, but Guate is trash. It's coal. I mean, that's not worth the paper it's printed on.
Who was recommending that work? Who? Somebody in the... Yeah, no doubt. Noel, the Orthodox ethos, it's a mess. Yeah, we've done a number of videos responding to Father Peter here. It's very bad, low level. It's low level.
There's an Orthodox guy I talked to a bit in Twitter DMs. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, I like a lot what he does, but I wish he would shut up about his stupid rebaptism thing. You know? Man, no doubt. Okay. Well, what was I talking about prior to that? Something to do with...
Oh, the reason for the schism.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. It's the unleavened bread and like things like fasting on Saturday and stuff. And then not long after that, about 10 years later, you have the filioque that's thrown into the mix. Yeah. That's added equally. And then essentially they found themselves on the other side of the papacy. And they didn't know what to do because they had believed in the papacy. Again, they believed in Agatho and Hadrian.
No doubt.
Like for example, I've got a book. I don't know if you read this book. The Antisemenon.
I have not.
It's a dialogue between Anselm of Havelberg, a German Catholic bishop, and a Greek bishop, Exegesis of Nicaea, in about 1150, 1160, in Constantinople. It's a cordial discussion, and they talk about three things. They talk about the filioque. They talk about the unleavened bread, also known as the azymes, and they talk about the papacy. The papacy, believe it or not, is the least talked about of the three because there's not a lot of divergence there. They're like, we essentially, and so they had to kind of create a new ecclesiology outside of the papacy to deal with the fact that they had schismed over things so trivial as the azymes and the filioque.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I think. And Kyle King, I think you should read this book, Kyle King, if you're watching this. It's not that expensive. I got it for $35 Canadian. That's like what, $25 American? Yeah. On Amazon. It's not that expensive. Published by Cistercian Publications, and it's a snapshot of where the dialogue was back then. And it's telling the fact that today you can go to Jay Dyer, where he gives us 10 reasons he's not Catholic, or Trulia with his 10 questions Catholics can't answer and stuff like that. None of them bring up the azymes anymore.
No, they don't. None of them.
And we haven't changed on that. And both, that doesn't matter if you go to Latin Mass or the Novus Ordo. It's still all unleavened bread.
Yeah. John, well, you're here, brother. Hope you're enjoying this the conversation, brother. Hope everybody is enjoying it. We have a good crowd. So let me put this particular. Where is it? Here. This is a good one. Hold on. Here we go. Modern day Eastern Orthodoxy. I am sorry, but modern day Eastern Orthodoxy cannot deal with these texts in any coherent. By the way, I don't look that pretty. Kyle, thank you for beatifying me. I guess Kyle opened up a Beatify app and he made me look nice and pretty. Hey, I'm all for that. I don't look that pretty though. So thank you for that, Kyle, for using the Beatify app on me. But anyway,
you got your good side.
Yeah, you got my good side there. Right manner whatsoever.
He is the first bishop among the bishops. He's the first patriarch among the patriarchs. He is the first high priest among the high priests. There's always this protos among in a conciliar manner. And so they're viewing his office as being patriarchal.
Yeah, I want to go into that. Yes, go ahead, brother.
Well, again, I would make the case that the Catholic Church is more conciliar than the Orthodox Church. Because we haven't had, and I can give you a ton of examples of the emperor post-schism dictating the theology. And even it started pre-schism in the 10th century, but like
people don't realize it. It started pre-schism, yes.
Yeah, because like if you go to the early 900s, you got Emperor Leo VI. He's changing the doctrine of marriage. He was actually opposed by the patriarch, but the patriarch lost.
Right?
He's like, I'm the emperor. I do what I want. I'm changing what it means in the empire. And I brought this up, and it's kind of like no one knows about it, and they try to question it. And I'm like, I'm quoting the 11th century Byzantine historian John Skylitzis. Is he wrong? They're like, he must be. According to who? I don't know. Then they kind of block you and leave.
No doubt, 100% there. Slower Panther, reach out to me. Email me at william@patristicpillars.com. Email me and we'll get together. I'll give you a one-on-one session and we'll discuss whatever it is you have concerns about. We'll do it sometime next week. Email me and put in bold that you are Slower Panther. You want to meet with me. William@patristicpillars.com. I can guarantee you go over our videos, read our material. There is only one clear choice. I can guarantee you that is Catholicism. Definitely be praying for you. Without a doubt, be praying for you. Brother, the other point that I find very often that is not brought forth by Kyle over and over, the protos, the first among others, is the idea in what way? Well, he doesn't lay out that biblically he's the head shepherd over the others. He is the head shepherd. He is the shepherd. He is the one that is going to stay rids on, strengthen the brethren. By the way, that interpretation of Luke 22 is a patristic one, and the interpretation of an ecumenical council, and it points to papal supremacy, to papal infallibility. So even though Kyle is saying, well, he's a protos, we can agree on all this, he's leaving out that one important detail, because we don't only believe as Catholics that the Pope is the protos. What does that mean? What else does it mean? It means something very special for the office. By virtue of him being the protos, he is the head shepherd, per John chapter 21, per Luke 22. He is the one that will strengthen the brethren. And that is the way ecumenical councils interpreted it. And Kyle has got to deal with that. Go ahead, brother.
Can I show you a quote? I want to see if you can tell me where this is from. It says, also renewing the order of the other patriarchs, which has been handed down in the canons. The Patriarch of Constantinople should be second after the Most Holy Roman Pontiff. Third should be the Patriarch of Alexandria. Fourth, the Patriarch of Antioch. And fifth, the Patriarch of Jerusalem, without prejudice to all their privileges and rights. Do you know what I'm quoting?
I have an idea. Tell us what it is.
I am quoting, and it shows two things. The Council of Florence, the union text at Florence, which shows, yes, the Pope is the first, and there is an order that Kyle talked about. And it's also showing that we are the more conciliar synodal ones, because if they're in the second millennia, if there was anything that looked like an ecumenical council, it was Florence. It had the emperor, it had the Eastern patriarchs. They all discussed, they all voted. In fact, in some ways, it was more of an ecumenical council than a lot of the earlier ones, if you want to get into proof texting mode.
And I was wrong. I was going to say, I thought it was Constantinople, but you got me there. So I imagine maybe there's similar language. Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but you got me there, though. Okay. I was going to say Constantinople, but it's a Florentine canon. That's great. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So it's a post. Again, that was the synod that we stuck to. We accepted the conclusions of the synod, which shows that we're more synodal, and they eventually ended up repudiating it.
Yeah.
But it just shows that we agree with the first. So just saying, well, the Pope is the first among ... That's not enough. You know, that's got such a wide semantic range of meaning.
Yep. And another issue, and I don't see this get brought up very often, and maybe one day we can do a show about it, is the status of Florence as viewed initially by Mark of Ephesus and by Greek scholars post-Florence. And you look and you realize that it was viewed as having ecumenical authority. And I'm talking about early on. Not only do you have that as evidence from Greek sources at the time period, you have scholars of theirs admitting such as well. So this is an area which is important, because when we came to the table at Florence, by the way, don't tell me it wasn't in the discussions. It was, I guarantee you. At that time of Florence, there was no disagreement on two areas. I'm going to argue three areas where clearly the Orthodox today have moved further away from. Now, not even touching upon the topic of the filioque. If you look at the way at that particular time in history, the Eastern Orthodox had no issue with the North African code, the way the Catholic Church views the canon of Scripture today. And today, Eastern Orthodoxy, they don't have a set canon. It's a total mess. The other thing on the table, the Immaculate Conception, there was no disagreement. Mark of Ephesus taught it and believed it. Today, they heavily reject that. Yet there at Florence, there was no difference there. They were in agreement. The other issue, even though Mark of Ephesus wrote a letter against the Latins, even though he disagreed with the fiery aspect of purgatory in his Purgatorio letter, if you read what he says about post-mortem suffering, it lines up with the Catholic model. He even teaches satisfatio. Well, good luck finding Orthodox today that affirm that. So you look at Florence and you look at how much the Eastern Orthodox have evolved. And if you're telling me that you're on the fence, considering Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy, I hate to say it, Kyle, but if you say, well, I know what we're going to believe in 100 years, no, you don't. Because you evolved after Florence, and then you evolved after the Confession of Disitheus. Who knows what the Eastern Orthodox are going to believe in 100 years?
Well, and like you talked about things they didn't bring up. I'll bring up another one, the essence versus energy distinction. Like you've got people like Jay Dyer who think this is the reason, the Western world's atheists, but because they don't have the essence versus energy distinction. Yet in 1054, at least they can make up the argument you hadn't had Palamas and Aquinas yet. But by the time you get to Florence, Palamas and Aquinas are long gone. So those theologies are firmly established. And they obviously, since it was given almost zero, if not zero attention at Florence, why, if it's not a big deal then, why is it a big deal now? Because at Florence, Aquinas and Palamas were both long dead, their theologies established.
Yep. 100%. No doubt. Their theologies established. And Palamas, by the way, taught the Immaculate Conception, even more explicit than Mark of Ephesus. So they're in a world of trouble today. Kyle King cannot come to the table and tell his audience with a straight face that he believes what Mark of Ephesus believed about the Blessed Mother, or what Palamas believed about the Blessed Mother, or what Brienius, and I can go on and on. He cannot do that. And that to me is a great shame in how far away the Orthodox have moved from the faith of their fathers. And I'm not saying it's deliberate dishonesty. In my opinion, maybe Kyle just hasn't done the homework in these councils. I gather that, Alan, because he posts the video about me. By the way, thank you again, Kyle, for that wonderful, beautiful filter. But he never goes into the text from the Greek of Hadrian at Nicaea II. He doesn't go over it. And I look over it. In fact, I have a whole video where I look at the Greek of Hadrian's text. Why not go over it line by line the way I did and come out and say, this is what William was wrong? I did a whole video on it. Kyle says I'm wrong. Well, then how am I wrong? Don't play a video of the uber liberal Father Price, who I denounced as being wrong multiple times. By the way, Kyle, I know Father Price, and I've told him quite publicly that I don't agree with his views on Mariology, and I've never told him that I don't agree with his views on the East view of the papacy. You know why? Because in his published works, he agrees with me. Maybe he had a lapse, in memory or whatever on the air. But in his published works, Kyle, he doesn't agree with you. He agrees with everything that we laid forth there at R&T. Yet on the air, he said differently. Go figure. Either which way. By the way, yes, people, go to Alan's channel. If any of our mods can be incredible, we do have some really good mods, some great ones. The only really bad mod, he really stinks, Protestant Believer. He's my worst mod. But any of you guys, I'm joking, if any of you guys can pin Alan's channel down below, people, if you haven't subbed to it yet, the guy's brilliant. He's great.
What's fantastic. Up, Protestant Believer?
Yeah, how you doing, brother? I'm totally joking. He knows I'm joking there.
He's awesome.
He's great. My favorite heretic. Yeah. But go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Well, about the thing with Father Price, are you going to play that clip from him that King plays?
I sure am. Yes.
Okay. In that case, I'll wait until you play it because I have some comments.
Let me do
that. He is a patriarch.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Well, just comments that Kyle King and others who post this clip, because it seems to be going
they love it.
liberal.
Oh, they love it. They love it. We had a liberal on, and they love posting that little quote. But why don't they put the whole thing where over and over Father Price doesn't agree with them? And why don't they post from his own published works where he doesn't agree with them? They're not going to do that. They're going to get that one quote bite, as if a quote bite from a liberal priest is going to, disprove Catholicism. Come on, Kyle. Kyle, you should know better. You should know better, Kyle.
And I don't know if you saw the thing between Chris Plants and Jay Dyer. Do you see that?
When was that?
About a week ago, maybe.
I have no clue. Who's Chris Plant? Who's that?
He's a Catholic.
Never heard of him.
He was a student of Scott Hahn. He's very good with the scripture, and he did dialogue with Jay Dyer, and but a whole bunch of times during the thing, and like this really made me angry. It kind of reminded me of Jamila White and the Islamic apologist too. Is Jay Dyer says, "Oh, that the Orthodox and Uniat scholars would agree with this." Well, why don't you quote evidence? Like, I hate scholarly quotes. Scholars are only appealed to when you don't have evidence. That's what I do. You'll never see me doing that.
Yeah.
As far as I know,
and Alan, let me bring up a point. While you pull that up, let me double down. Let me double down on that and make a point. During my debate against Jake the Muslim, he kept bringing up liberal scholars. I said, I don't care what they have to say. Let us look at the text and examine it, break down the Greek. I don't care what your liberals have to say. And Alan, ultimately, when people have no good argument, they're going to bring out the liberals. They're going to bring them out. They're going to trot them out because they don't have anything else.
I saw that debate with Jake. That was a good debate, by the way. Well done on that one.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
But look, you got the Acts of the
you
Last
got him.
Synod.
Do you have all of his books?
I think I don't have one of them. I've got.
I'm sure you have Second Nicaea, right? You have that one.
Yeah, I do.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's downstairs in my.
Okay. Because I know you've shown that
basement.
one to me before.
But the thing is, I take a book like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Price has compiled the council. He's compiled all the documents, and he's got a bunch of intro, a bunch of footnotes, a bunch of commentary. Of course, I read that because I feel like I'm getting ripped off if I don't read it. I'm weird that way. And
you paid a lot for the book. You might as well read it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I just know that's what some guy says. That's like, it's only one guy's opinion.
Yep.
So thanks for your opinion, but it has zero weight. Same with, I got Constantinople 553 over there. I've got Chalcedon, Ephesus, Trullo, Second Nicaea. I don't think I have his one on 869. I've not picked up that one yet, but the point is, he's just a guy, and it just, at the end of the day, all Kyle King can prove that thing is some guy today said this. That's literally all it's worth.
Yep.
In my mind, what I care, if Kyle King can cite me the acts and the canons and the minutes on the council and the contemporary stuff that was written about the council, that's something else.
That is the key too, Alan. Great point. The contemporary stuff written about the council, and that is one of the things that in our papacy book we heavily deal with. Contemporaries of Agatho, contemporaries of Hadrian. What are they saying? What are the commentaries being provided by them? And it really doesn't work for the Orthodox. Simply doesn't. That is when it completely falls apart. Their narrative completely falls apart.
Office is not something different above that. It doesn't mutate and become higher than that.
Source.
Yeah, look, very clearly in the Bible, our Lord gives the keys to the kingdom of heaven to St. Peter singularly. Now, come on, Kyle. You know better. You know that we do robust work. We're not going to make that argument, well, only he gets the keys. We know what the fathers say. We know what the councils say. But singularly, there is a reason St. Peter received them singularly, apart from all of the others. There's a clear reason, because he was, and very clearly his successors are, the head shepherd. That is the role that was laid out in Scripture. He's the shepherd, John chapter 21. He is the one that will strengthen the brethren, Luke chapter 22. And he's the one that made the decision in Acts 15. You got a world of problems on your hands there, because you are making claims. Well, verify them from the Bible, from church history, and you're not doing it. In fact, I was bummed out. I was hoping. I said, hey, this guy bothered to download an app and make me look beautiful. He made me look beautiful. Look at that. I even got great lashes there. I look better than I've ever looked there. Thank you, Kyle. But rather than utilizing a filter, you should have gone over the Greek text that I went over to refute me. I went line by line to Hadrian's text, and I showed papal supremacy there. And all you had was Father Richard Price. Really? Father Richard Price over a first-hand source? Come on, Kyle. You can do better. But I don't think that you can refute the papal claims. Simply can't do that.
Well, and a thing that they might point out is the Chieti and Alexandria documents. And that, I just say, look, we've done
shows on that here. People can check those out. We've done multiple shows on those.
I've shown Christian Wagner, and Christian Wagner pointed out that holds as much power as like a newspaper article. It's a glorified New York Times article. Yeah,
and even the claims there at Chieti and they don't support Eastern Orthodoxy. So these guys are just really grasping at straws. They're really desperate.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like it talks about like in Alexandria. Like I had someone quote Alexandria at me about a month ago, and I'm like, so do you agree with Alexandria when it says that because of the church reforms of Tsar Peter the Great, it became a Protestant church hierarchy in Russia? And they're like, oh, no, that's absurd. And I'm like, well, then why are you quoting me this document?
Yep.
And by the way, that's something else we need to bring up with Kyle. Tsar Peter's reforms. It's something I've been using a lot lately, because there's a question I asked on X, and I tagged a whole bunch of Orthodox people, including Trulia. And I'm just saying, for 2 centuries, from 1722 to 1917, the church in Russia was controlled by a synod, and that was controlled by a layman called the procurator, who was appointed by the czar. And I mean, where is that anywhere in the church fathers? Now, like for example, I made the analogy. When King Henry VIII in 1534 or 35 takes over the church in England, it ceased to be Catholic there and then. Yeah. Sure, that's only one thing. But it ceased to be Catholic. He kept the Mass, he kept prayers to saints, transubstantiation. But if the Pope's not there, it's not Catholic.
Right.
But if you take a look at Russia, they radically altered the ecclesiology.
Big time.
And yet it's still Orthodox somehow. And like I asked, did the church in Russia cease to be Orthodox for those 2 centuries?
Right.
And I got no good answer.
No response.
Yeah, I got some responses from Greg Trulia, but he's like, what happened when the Holy Roman Emperor appointed the Pope? And I'm like, I'm not talking about lay investiture. I know there was a tiny bit of that in the West. I acknowledge that. Of course, it's been expunged from canon law for the last 1,000 years.
For a long time.
Yeah, but it's technically it was valid at the time for reasons I won't get into. But that didn't change the structure. You still have a Pope. You still have the Bishop of Rome.
Never change the structure ever. Yeah. Never change it.
and there's no answer. And like if they're saying that church was I don't know how that's Orthodox. Okay, it's okay to have your church under a patriarch. That's Orthodox. Or under an archbishop or a bishop. That's Orthodox. To have it under a procurator, how is that Orthodox? Show me that from the fathers or the councils or something like that.
Nowhere.
It's
Nowhere.
not there. So that ceased to be Orthodox. And they have a lot of Eastern Orthodox saints from that period. They got Saint Seraphim of Sarah, Saint Philaret of Moscow, a few others. Saint Ignatiy Brakaninov, a whole bunch of these saints that are in a church, let's face it, that does not have Orthodox ecclesiology.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, how is that Orthodox? Someone show me how it's Orthodox. And I said before, as long as the Pope's not involved, it's okay for them. Like if Tsar Peter said, all right, we're going to put the church in Russia under the Bishop of Rome, they would say it's no longer Orthodox.
Right.
Yet I guarantee you go in church fathers, there's way more evidence for papal authority than procurator authority.
Oh, no doubt about it. There's no doubt. It's all over the place. All over the place. I mean, very, very clear.
Have rejected the papacy.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
In fact, in 1901 or 02, I can't remember the exact year, Tolstoy, who was like kind of a Gnostic, he had his own kind of faith, same with Dostoevsky. Tolstoy was excommunicated from the Orthodox Church by the procurator.
Yeah.
So he was excommunicated by a layman, appointed by another layman. So, I mean, how is that patristic or apostolic?
It's not at all. It isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't.
So what does Kyle King say about this?
To be quite honest with you, I don't think Kyle King knows.
Yeah,
I don't think he knows much of his history. And with all due respect to him, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I don't think he's done the work. I don't. I think Kyle King massively was just unhappy with Pope Francis and preferred, thought that the Eastern Rite was, greater. And then he just took the full step into going to Eastern Orthodoxy. And look, I've read his comments on the Immaculate Conception. I've read his comments on the canon of Scripture, and he simply does. I don't think he gives good arguments for the Eastern Orthodox position at all. And does he know the arguments? He knows them. What Kyle King should know better. He knows who Father Kopp.
Whoa, William. I'm curious. People in the chat, can you see William?
My bad, brother. A crasher. There we go. My bad.
Oh.
There we go.
Yeah, I see you.
Gremlins in the machine. So he's read Father Koppa's stuff. He should know better when it comes to Mariology. But, as far as papacy, I'm not aware of him having really done, work in that particular field. And I've got to upload that video again. That crashed and it came off. Let me get the video back.
So embarrassing for the Orthodox.
Obedient.
That was not decisive. A decision has to be made in the East.
Modern day Eastern Orthodoxy. I am sorry, but modern day Eastern Orthodoxy cannot deal with these texts in any coherent manner whatsoever.
He is the first bishop among the bishops. He's the first patriarch among.
I mean, Kyle, I'm making statements. I'm showing the text. And rather than refuting me, Kyle just starts saying, oh, well, he's the first among the bishops.
Among the patriarchs. He is the first high priest
Florence?
among.
I'm just waiting for Kyle to actually deal with the text from Nicaea II. He never does. Look at this.
The high priests. There's always this protos among.
Sure, there's this protos, but what does the protos mean, Kyle? That's the problem. Nobody's disputing that there's this protos, but what are the implications of this protos? It means that he is the head shepherd. Nobody's disputing that, Kyle. And I think this is where Kyle really trips up. Nobody's disputing these claims. What they're disputing is what the implications for him being the protos are. And Kyle, I'll just let me play the clip.
In a conciliar manner. And so they're viewing his office as being patriarchal in nature. He is a patriarch. His office is not something different above that.
Well, if that was the case, I know what you believe, Kyle, but if that was the case, then we wouldn't read Second Nicaea and exalted still more your holy mother, the Catholic and Roman spiritual church. And especially if you follow the tradition of the Orthodox faith of the church, of the holy Peter and Paul, the chief apostles, and embrace the vicar, as the emperors who reigned before you of old both honored their vicar and loved him with all their heart. And if your sacred majesty honor the most holy Roman church of the chief apostles, to whom was given power by God the Word himself to loose and to bind sins in heaven and on earth. For the holy and chief apostles themselves, who set up the Catholic and Orthodox faith, have laid it down as a written law that all who after them are to be successors of their seats should hold their faith and remain in it to the end. Yeah, Kyle, that office is particularly different. And remember what we read there. In the Acts in particular, Kyle, we read that Rome, where Peter is located at, it is the head of all the churches. Kyle, why don't you deal with that? Or head of all the apostles. Why don't you look at the second letter of Pope Hadrian? He didn't deal with that. And by the way, I'm dealing with the Greek text because I know the arguments that they make. Well, the Latin, you guys got papal flowery language there. We'll deal with the Greek. What does the Greek tell you? The Greek doesn't have it expunged. It says, head of all the churches of God. You can find that in, guess who? Father Price's Acts, page 180, I believe. Over and over, he notes this. Why wasn't that omitted by the Easterners, Kyle? If they didn't agree with this, why wasn't that taken out? Head of all the churches of God. How are you going to deal with that, Kyle? Are you united, Kyle? Kyle, are you united to what your father said was the head of all the churches of God? No, you're not united to that church, Kyle.
Well, and it says the same thing in Chalcedon.
Sure does. It sure does. Yeah, it sure does.
Another council that he accepts.
Yep. And then look at this, session 2. Look at this in the letters from Hadrian. If you look at session 2 of that council, by the way, there was zero refutation from Kyle. All Kyle, his trump card was Father Price. Wonderful. Father Price was his trump card. What do we read there at the council? What do we read? That one presiding lawfully and by God's will over the holy hierarchs. My goodness. Who does he preside over, Kyle? He presides over the holy hierarchs. So don't tell me he's just a protos in a certain model that fits with your ecclesiology. No, Kyle. According to the council that your fathers were united with us at, he presides lawfully and by God's will. So don't tell me that the office is the same. By God's will, he's over the holy hierarchs. How do you deal with that, Kyle? Kyle, I challenge you to reach out to me. We can go on your channel and we will debate the Greek of Nicaea II. Anytime you want to do it. I dare say, Alan, that he cannot deal with the text of Nicaea II. What are your thoughts?
Well, I wonder, we've read all the Price volumes. I think I haven't read one of them, but I've read Nicaea II, and I'm wondering, I'm wondering if these people have even read these councils, because I mean, what they will say is, because it's like, well, it shows it's synodal, collegial, stuff like that. They're like, we don't deny that, and like I said, I will say that we're more synodal and collegial than you guys are in the second millennium, and that tradition is that of the first millennium as well. And I'd be impressed if Kyle King has picked up Nicaea II or pretty much any of the Price books.
Yeah.
And I wonder, does Kyle King interpret Matthew 16, Luke 22:32, and John 21:15-17? That's something Pope Agatha also brings up as well.
Yep.
I wonder if Kyle King interprets them like the councils do.
That's a big problem. John chapter 21. How were they interpreted by the East and West? Luke 22, East and West. And then what do we read there in Hadrian? That Peter is what? The supreme head of the apostles. Don't come to me with this protos stuff. We agree there, but then you undervalue what protos means. What does it mean? According to your fathers, Kyle, it means supreme head of the apostles. You're in a world of trouble, Kyle. And I'm going to ask you again, Kyle. I want you to come and to let me know. Are you united to the head of all the churches of God? That is what Rome is referred to as that. Rome is referred to as the head of all the churches of God. And Kyle, you have left that faith. You've left the faith of the apostles, the faith of your fathers. You've abandoned it, Kyle.
Well, Kyle, and like in all charitable acts, Kyle, I want to be as charitable as possible. You talked about how you're happy that your family has a stable place to live because, you know, the next 100 years are going to be fairly known what's going to happen and stuff. Kyle, I'd say come on our stream sometime. Come on
Yep.
William's channel, and I can come on too, and we'll go over some of these things that you say. And I think you'll realize at the end of the day, all you have are quotes from the modernists and ecumenists. Like that's why Jay Dyer constantly goes to the Chady document and the Alexandria document, because he has no evidence. I mean, it's kind of like those documents. I'd say to people, it's like, well, you know, do the Eastern and Oriental churches believe the same on ecclesiology? They're like, no, of course not. Well, in 1990, they had a conference which says that they believed in the same thing all along. They need to remove the anathemas against each other's saints and all that stuff. So I mean, what about that? I mean, at the end of the day, if all you can quote are modernist documents, and he does use some apologetics with Matthew 16, but he ends up using a Protestant in interpretation that was never imported into the ecumenical councils. That's the thing. The ecumenical councils disqualify Cyprian's interpretation because it's not in the ecumenical councils, whereas the Catholic one is. William.
Don't worry, brother. Anytime that happens, I'll be back. It is. I'll tell you what it is. It's my browser, Firefox, with StreamYard. It has nothing to do with my connection or my computer. My computer's fine. It is the browser, and next time I will use a different browser. So, the audience, you don't have to worry. If I drop off, I guarantee you I'm going to be back in like under.
What was the last thing you heard from me?
The last thing I heard.
So embarrassing.
You remember? I don't remember. Huh.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I'm sure our audience heard it because I was
on
the whole time.
Ecclesiology. There we go. The ecclesiology point.
Well, the thing is, he tries to bring in Cyprian's interpretation, but that's rejected by the ecumenical councils. Only the Catholic interpretation is. See, that's why I love the ecumenical councils, because you know why they bring that up? Because they have to get all this stuff from the Protestants.
Of course, no doubt.
And the Protestants love this argument. And but the Protestants aren't bound to ecumenical councils, so it's a bit tougher when trying to debate them. So I kind of use other tactics. But against the Orthodox, I'm going to say, look what you're bound to.
Yeah,
And
in fact, let me
church
put
fathers
that.
can be wrong. We all concede church fathers can be wrong.
No doubt, but Cyprian, the Saint Cyprian, still does not favor them in what he says about the papacy. He believes that unity comes from being united to the chair of Peter. They don't bring that part up. They don't mention that. They very carefully avoid that. And I know what he's bringing up. He is bringing up an older show that we did, by the way, at this point right here.
Church as we see in the book of Revelation. So everything that Peter is, the bishops are.
We know all the trickery that our Eastern Orthodox friends try to bring up. We know church history, and unfortunately, this doesn't work. If someone does not hold fast to this unity of Peter, can he imagine that he still holds the faith? If he should desert the chair of Peter upon whom the church was built, can he still be confident that he is in the church?
When you get into Cyprian, he sees the bishop representing Peter. He is truly Peter's successor and sits on Peter's chair. Now, this is what Father Lawrence Cleanwork says in his Broken Body on St. Cyprian. The casual reader has no concept of the Eucharistic Petrine ecclesiology. That's a big phrase. We'll have to unpack that, which Cyprian took for granted. We'll come across passages that may sound decidedly Roman Catholic. He strongly stresses the fact that Peter is the rock on which the church is built. However, the expression chair of Peter was applied by Cyprian to every bishop. He writes, our Lord determines the honor of a bishop and the order of his church when he speaks in the gospel and says to Peter, I say unto you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Matthew 16, the bishops. From there, through the changes of times and successions, the ordination of bishops and the plan of the church flow on, so that the church is founded upon the bishops. The foundation is the apostles built on Christ. And every act of the church is regulated by these same prelates. Since then, this is founded upon divine law. They who have departed from the church, that would be presbyters who were leaving the bishops for heresy, not allow the church to recall and bring back the lapse. There is one God, one Christ, one church, one chair, founded by the voice of the Lord on the rock. Another altar cannot be set up, nor a new priesthood made besides the one altar and the one priesthood. Whoever gathers elsewhere scatters. What's St. Cyprian saying? Well, some people will be like, oh, the one chair, that must be the Pope's chair in Rome. But in this context, that's not what he's talking about. There's many altars around the whole world, but in many ways, they are one altar. They are the Eucharistic altar. St. Augustine will call it the one holy mountain where we're all gathered. When we all gather for the Eucharist, even though it's many altars, it's just one altar. In the same way, there's one priesthood with one chair. That is the chair of Peter, which is the chair of the bishop. It kind of reminds you of when Jesus says that the Pharisee sits on the chair of Moses. Moses wasn't around anymore, but there was symbolically one chair, but there were many chairs that the Pharisees sat on to teach the faith. Same concept, very similar. St. Gregory of Nyssa follows the same kind of thinking.
Let's pause it right there.
So I found the source for all of this. You think you could share my screen here?
Yeah, this very clearly is the source for all of this. There you go. Right there. There you go. It's right there. I'm with you 100%, Alan. You found it. You found it without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I got that from Christian Wagner. You know?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Look, it's terrible. That argument is terrible. That clearly he's not representing St. Cyprian correctly at all. St. Cyprian's very clear that unity comes from the chair of Peter. He is not representing St. Cyprian well at all. And in the video, in that particular video, all I was doing was quoting Cyprian. You can hear the quote. Self-explanatory. Self-explanatory. But Alan, how about you break that down a little bit? If you don't mind, I'm going to get up for 30 seconds and refill my drink. Is that all right with you, brother?
Yeah, so I wouldn't call myself an expert on St. Cyprian, but what I would say is that I kind of like what Eric Ibarra said about St. Cyprian, is that he had his ecclesiology, but he really couldn't live up to it in the end. Kind of like what happened to Eastern Orthodox, because they found themselves on the wrong side of the split. The wrong side of 1054 because of the Azymes, because of the Filioque, and then they were so they had to come up with something, and what they came up with was foreign to what came before. And I mean, what? Oh, is he gone again? He is. Oh, nice. I got it. Okay. So what I would do is people accuse us of not being like we're papal, we're not synodal. That's absolute nuts. Here is St. Robert Bellarmine on the papacy. This is him on the councils. Buy these two books, read them. It's over 1,000 pages total, so it's going to take you some time. But keep in mind, we're talking about eternity, so you need to know this stuff. It's very helpful. And yeah, and what I would do is encourage Kyle King to read all of this stuff. I'm curious, can anyone else see William? William looks like he's his browser crapped out again. Oh well, I got it all. Now I'll take some questions here. Giovanni Benjamin, I can't put it on the screen because it's his. Is he sure he's Orthodox? Guys sound like a prot with that argument. Well, they're pretty much all. Hey, William, can you put Giovanni Benjamin's quote on the screen?
Definitely. I apologize. I think my thing froze when I. No. For people that are wondering, it's not my internet. I'm not losing any internet at all. It's my browser. My browser is all messed up. Whenever I put StreamYard on this browser, it messes up. And of course, StreamYard, I can't just easily start launching in another browser right now. So it's not my internet. Don't think about that. Okay, here we go. Giovanni. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, and so again, I think a lot of these
so
arguments
embarrassing
are
for the Orthodox.
Like for example, if you go pick up a copy of Trulia's book,
yep,
you get Papalism by Denny quoted in the references quite a bit. Jay Dyer, he always points to that book.
His favorite resource. His favorite resource.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of I know John Colarafi's in the chat, and I've
is he really?
Yeah, I don't know if he still is, but I know at one point John Colarafi told Trulia, "Don't use the Protestant stuff."
Okay, John. Apparently, Trulia is not taking your advice, brother. You got to get him to take your advice, my friend.
Well, there's a quote actually in if you go to Sozomen book 3, chapter 8, where there's a synod in Antioch, and the Pope had just restored a bunch of exiled bishops, including Athanasius, Paul of Constantinople, the Bishop of Gaza, the Bishop of Ancyra, and I think a couple more. And what that synod in Antioch said is the Pope has no authority in the East. And so I think I caught the other Paul saying that. And I'm like, that's an Arian council, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it was other Paul or someone else. I caught someone.
Did he point it out? I imagine though he would have corrected that error.
I can't remember. It's a long time ago. I could be talking about someone else. But the point is, a lot of these are Arian arguments.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, they sure are. No, without a doubt, they are. And I was looking for the quote. I had it on hand. It's Epistle 69, Saint Cyprian. Since both baptism is one and the Holy Spirit is one, and the church founded by Christ the Lord upon Peter by a source and principle of unity. Now, there is so much from Saint Cyprian. There is so much. Exactly what Saint Cyprian's pointed. What his point is that the unity of church, it is very clearly where the succession of Saint Peter is. You must be united to that church. And he lays it down over and over and over. So the one thing that I think that Kyle is, I know that he is misunderstanding, misinterpreting, is thinking that the model laid out by Saint Cyprian favors this position. It doesn't. Over and over, he's telling you that unity lies right there where the Bishop of Rome is located. And he notes that over and over. That's the point of unity for Saint Cyprian. It is one. The church is one. He says, let me see where I've got this quote. Let me see if there's so many Saint Cyprian quotes, by the way. Where is this one?
Well, I just got a question.
Yes.
In all your reading of polemics from 1054 to the Council of Florence, I'm like how do you recall the Orthodox people quoting Saint Cyprian on the papal issues?
Not at all. Not at all. Letter 66.
I don't recall it either. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't
No,
know.
he's misrepresenting it clearly. Saint Cyprian about the church. It is one and cannot be rent asunder nor divided. Rather, it is everywhere interconnected and joined by the glue of sacred bishops mutually adhering together with one another. We recognize that. But this doesn't favor his position in any way at all, because St. Peter, the successor of St. Peter, is right there for him, the beating heart of ecclesiastical unity. I mean, if it was something else that he was saying, maybe he'd be making a point. But being united to the Pope is part of being united to the church. So here's another. There are so many quotes from him. I mean, you could do a whole show just on St. Cyprian. Upon him he builds his church, and him he hands over in trust his sheep to be fed. And although he might assign to all the apostles equal power, he, however, established one chair and ordained by his own authority that chair as, look at that, as the source of unity and its guiding principle. So that's a problem there. If you are not united to that source of unity, then you're not united to the church, according to St. Cyprian. That's a massive problem for his position. And we're going to see St. Cyprian doesn't favor him. He thought he did.
To every bishop. It says, change is founded upon.
But he also quotes
where Eucharistic altar, St. Augustine will call it the one holy mountain where we're all gathered. When we all gather for the Eucharist, even though it's many altars, it's just one altar. In the same way, there's one priesthood with one chair. That is the chair of Peter, which is the chair of the bishop. It kind of reminds you of when Jesus says that the Pharisee sits on the chair.
See, what Kyle gets wrong here, and this is Catholic Teaching 101. This was teaching East and West. He said, yes, all the bishops receive the keys. Nobody's arguing that. They do. But the only way to utilize those keys is if you are in unity with the head, St. Peter. You do not have those keys to utilize in that power if you are not united to the head. That is why for St. Cyprian, the church is the source of unity. That church being at Rome. Kyle is missing that point. Oh, well, all the bishops receive the keys. All the bishops receive the keys. Yes, but you can only utilize them if you are united to the head. You do not have a kind of rogue authority as the head on your own. No, the source of that unity, according to St. Cyprian, is Rome, the Bishop of Rome.
Chair of Moses. Moses.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Are you familiar with Saint Optatus?
Yes, sure am. Of Melibus.
Yeah,
Melibus,
you read
like
his tract, obviously, and he
Oh,
says that the keys are given to Peter, and he ties it to the papacy. One time, James White, I heard James White says, "Oh, show me somewhere in the first 4 centuries where Matthew 16 is applied to the papacy, apart from popes themselves."
Right.
And I'm like, Optatus, right? Optatus is in the 4th century, and he gives the perfect interpretation, which I think is the Catholic interpretation. Keys given to Peter alone, but the keys access, it goes to the rest of the apostles through Peter.
Yeah.
And that's consistent with everything ancient and medieval from the ecumenical councils.
Yeah, Optatus really doesn't
including
do them any favors at
post-schism
all.
councils.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. Optatus doesn't do them any favors at all. He really does not. Now, Epistle 54 is one that I included in my video, and I'm going to post it here. This is Epistle 54 from St. Cyprian, and then we'll move on to the next father. After such things as these, moreover, they still dare, a false bishop, having been appointed for them, by heretics to set sail and to bear letters from schismatic, profane persons to the throne of Peter and to the chief church. Are you united to that chief church, Kyle? Again, I ask you. No, you're not. The chief church, whence priestly unity takes its source. Yet again, my point is proven. You can read St. Cyprian day and night, but he tells you, you must be united to that chief church where priestly unity takes its source, and not to consider that these were Romans whose faith was praised in the preaching of the apostle, to whom faithlessness could have no access. St. Cyprian does you no favors. None at all, Kyle. And the next quote you bring up doesn't
Wasn't
either.
around anymore, but there was symbolically one chair, but there were many chairs that the Pharisees sat on to teach the faith. Same concept, very similar. St. Gregory of Nyssa follows the same kind of thinking. Through Peter, gave to the bishops the keys of the heavenly honors.
Now, when I looked at that, and the one thing that I always do, Kyle should know this by now, because Kyle has admittedly followed the work that I've done, I guess, over the years, seeing shows I've done. Kyle knows that there's one thing that I do is I'm very meticulous in the early church fathers' quotes. I've learned that through my work with Father Kappas over the years. You better be meticulous. You better be using the correct quote. You better go to the original source material. So
you know where he went? You know where he got this quote?
I gather he got it from Eric Ibarra. I Googled it, and that's the first thing that came up.
He got it from Trulia.
Okay.
Trulia.
Let me ask you this. Does Trulia quote it the exact same way with the exact same source like that?
Let me check Trulia's source. He says PG 42 312 cited in John Meyendorff Primacy.
You mean 47? That's 47.
It says 42 here.
Oh, and Trulia it says 42?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not 42 and it's not 47 either. I'm gathering he got it from Eric Ibarra. Eric Ibarra puts 47 on his webpage. It doesn't matter. They're all wrong. Trulia is wrong. Ibarra is wrong. And Kyle is wrong as well. Now, Eric does get it correctly. I believe Eric corrected that error. Innocent mistake. Maybe a book got the error. But St. Gregory of Nyssa's Patrologia Grece volume, it's not 47, it's 46. But minor gripe. That is not my main issue. It's not a fake quote. It's a real quote. That's not my main issue. My main issue with Kyle is that and Eric doesn't make this mistake, by the way. Eric posted, and Eric knows why it's a powerful quote. Kyle doesn't. Kyle quotes it thinking that, well, it favors my position without actually knowing what it is even talking about. So I thought it was worthwhile to go to the actual quote. And by the way, we'll make it big for the screen. It's in the
William is not gonna. You're not gonna stump William on the church fathers, guys.
No, you're not. It's in the Patrologia Grece 46. So I went in there and I wanted to know the context to see, does the context favor what Kyle is putting forth? And of course, it's very easy, very, very easy to utilize quote bites, take them out of context. But then when you begin breaking down the stuff and reading what is actually said, it just doesn't favor your position. Nothing false or untrue is written in the Gospels, nor does Christ's prediction have a false outcome. Through Peter, he gave to the bishops the keys of ecclesiastical honors. Recognize that you are loosed and bound by invisible bonds. If you had eyes with which you could see the substance of the soul, I would show you that you are cut off from communion in the appearance of a condemned man with the most heavy chains around your neck, not having any of your limbs free or loose. I am just shocked. I'm baffled. Yes, John says that quote is all over the anthologies. And John seems to be aware that just quote where it's from. They didn't get the meaning correct. But I did go to the meaning and I did provide it here. And as John Colarafi probably notes, but as very clearly Kyle is not aware of, is that this quote actually demolishes their position. Because in Adversus Castigationis, my Latin is horrific. I suck at Latin. That's okay because I'm not going to go to hell for not knowing Latin. Anyway, the Latin, I don't know Latin, but I do know Greek. The whole of the context is about those that are not united to the church, Kyle. And it notes that the Gospels lay out the truth. What truth do they lay out, Kyle? They lay out that St. Peter is the rock. And a key part of that truth is the fact that through Peter, he gave to the bishops the keys. The point being, Kyle, they must be united to the head, to Peter. Are you united to Peter, Kyle? St. Gregory of Nyssa's whole point is referring to those that are castaways, if you will, those that are not part of the true church. He says, if you had eyes with which you could see the substance of the soul, I would show you you're cut off from communion. You are cut off from communion. So this quote, this whole quote that Kyle thought was going to disprove Catholicism, it rather shows the glaring problems with Eastern Orthodoxy. Those that are not united to Peter, to the head, to the Bishop of Rome, those not united to him are cast off from communion. Kyle, my friend, you should know better when using quote bites against me. You should know better. Should know that I'm going to go to the original and read the context, and the context is never going to favor you because the early church fathers were Catholic. That is why. Never going to favor you. God bless you, MB. Thank you so much for your support. God bless you. But this seems to be a common theme, isn't it, Alan? Where they take things out of context. And I see you, you're like, my goodness, it really doesn't favor his position at all.
A person who also does the same thing using Trulia's book. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the debate between Luigi and Pinesap.
Trying to think. I don't think I did. Not that one.
Okay, because it's literally the exact same way. And in fact, Trulia calls in during the Q&A, and then
really,
and then because he wants to ask the Pope Martin argument again. That argument I just blew to smithereens in my video. Do you see that, by the way?
I did not see it. No.
Okay, you should go see my video. It's only 10-15 minutes long. Where I got
you. Tip of the hat to you, John. Tip of the hat to John Colarafi. He looked it up for his book, and he did do the homework. He did note that it's Patrologia 46. Because, John, you're doing real work. Good job there, brother. Good job there.
Nicely done, John.
Yep.
Yeah, no, and then Craig calls in during the Q&A, and then like he asks this question, and before they hang up, he's like, I want to thank Craig for prepping me for this debate. And like pretty much all of the quotes used in the debate were from Trulia's book.
Really?
Yeah. And like the Pope Martin quote is just egregious. He gives no context. And in my video, I give a ton of context for that book.
I gotta definitely check out that video. I was not aware that you did a video on that.
Yeah, it's not that long. It's not that long.
Mm.
And I quote everything. It's all from these two books.
There you go. What book is that there? That other one, the one on your left hand. That one there.
This book is Conflict and Negotiation in the Early Church.
Okay. I think I've got that in ebook format somewhere.
Yeah, I got the cover here.
There it is. That's a great book. Oh my goodness, that book does so much damage to Eastern Orthodoxy. That is a great book.
It is a great book. In fact, I've got a video. If you sometime in the future, William, if you're ever in Calgary, Alberta, and you ever come to my place, I'll show you. If you take a look at my library, and in the beginning of all of them, I have a cue card where I write down all the important, like page 52, papal supremacy quote.
Brother, if I ever go to Canada, which one day I will, you've got to take me to your very best steakhouse. If I ever go there.
Okay. Yeah. We can definitely do that.
I'm a Texan. You got to take me there. You guys have steak over there, right? Or is it outlawed over there?
I know Trudeau's trying to replace it with crickets.
Oh my goodness. I don't doubt that, man.
But Alberta is the Texas of Canada.
Really? So you guys got good meat there then?
Yeah, like we're known where our main industry is oil, ranching, farmland.
Whoa, in Alberta. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, brother. I mean, I don't regularly think about hopping on a plane and going to Canada, so I have no idea what you guys, got going over there. I mean, that's great though. I mean, great to hear.
Oh, Elijah, what's up, buddy?
Elijah, man, he's my second favorite heretic.
Have you been to Canada, Elijah? I'm curious.
Tim Hortons. That Tim Hortons. Funny. I've never even been to a Tim Hortons in the U.S.
I didn't know they had them there.
I don't even know what a Tim Hortons is. I've never been to it.
Oh, it's like a coffee shop, kind of like.
Look at this. Not even Alan can agree with that. Come on.
Well,
come on, man.
Well, it depends where you go in Canada, because the problem with steak from the States, a lot of the cows are fed cornmeal, which makes
it depends where from the States.
Yeah. The cornmeal stuff is absolutely gross. Yeah,
it depends where. Because in Texas, imagine telling a Texan the Canadian steak is the best. Come on, man. It's like telling a German that Mexican beer is the best.
Ooh.
Hey, I live on the border. There is some good Mexican beer. I'm a beer connoisseur. So you're not going to tell me the Corona is better than a Doppelbock beer. I would throw a rock at your head.
Wait. But William, it does not matter, because in a couple decades, both of those countries are going to become Orthodox, and they're going to be drinking vodka instead of beer anyway.
You're right there. Look at this heretic here. Look at this heretic here. Come on, Edsy. Now, Edsy, if you can tell me, I'm going to tell him right now. I will gift him a subscription right now. Subscription to the channel, member subscription. If he can tell me what is the Mexican beer that is the best, and if it's a quality beer, I will gift him one right now, a subscription. Right this minute. If it is a quality beer, don't come to me with Corona or Tecate. I know, look, guys, let me say one thing, brother. Edsy, I know beer the way I know theology. That's how. Oh, look at that. Look at what Divine Mercy said. Modelo, he doesn't know beer. Amateur comment. Look at that. Victoria, they don't know beer. Cinco, oh my goodness, Cinco's today. He went the worst. He went to the look at that.
What's your favorite Canadian beer?
I will tell you good Mexican beers, because they're not listing good ones. Minerva is a good one. That is a quality one. Leon is another one that is good. Indio is another one that is good. None of the ones that they've listed are good here. I know that because I am a beer snob. I used to brew my own beer for many years. And something about me many people don't know. I am part of a society of German beer drinkers from Germany. I know beer like the palm of my hand, man. I tell you right now, the beers that they listed are good drinking beers. They're good to, sit down, you'll drink them. But I'm talking about a quality Mexican beer. A quality one. They do have some quality ones, but the ones they listed are not quality.
And then you got me. I'm the opposite. I'm a teetotaler.
There you go.
So learn about the beer from William. Hey, William, can you?
You'll school me on whiskey or tequila. You'll school me. I don't know anything about those. Yeah, Juan, I'm with you, Juan. Juan, I love you. You're incredible. I cannot stand IPAs, man.
Can you put John MB69?
Yes, I will, but hold on one moment. Dama Católica, you are incredible. Finally. We finally have somebody here from Mexico or Hispanic that lists a quality beer. Bohemia or Bohemia Obscura or Bohemia Weizen. I know Bohemia like the back of my hand. You win. You win the internet. You win the day. Incredible. In fact, you know what, Dama Católica? I'm going to make her a mod because of that. I'm going to make you a mod. I've never seen her talk here ever before, but I'm making her a mod because she listed a quality Mexican beer. You rock. Now, Modelo, that's amateur beer. Nobody that knows beer is going to list Modelo as one of the best. Go ahead, brother. Whose comment did you want me to put up?
It's a bit further up. Go to John MB69.
Oh, yeah. John, the brother John.
And he's asking about the title of this book.
My bad. I missed that. I'm sorry. Let me go.
So can you put my screen on large and zoom in?
Here we go. I found it there. Yes, I will. Let me take my hideous, horrific face off.
All right. I'll put this up for 10 seconds. Anselm of Havelberg, Antisimenon. Whatever. You can read it there. It's a very good book. Very cordial dialogue in Constantinople in the 12th century. All right. I'm done.
Awesome. We still got a little bit more to look at. I want to at least touch upon, are you good with time, brother? You got at least 20, 30 more minutes?
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
You good? Okay. Do at least 20, 30 more. I do want to look at particular who won. Not you, Elijah. No, you know what? Here's a better one. Elijah, I'll tell you one thing. The Netherlands didn't win against Germany. You want to know who won? The Netherlands didn't win. There's your result, brother. There's your result. I love the brother Elijah. You know, I cannot wait to begin collabing with the guy again. Here's something a lot of people don't know. There are very few people that are as good in the papacy as Elijah. Many people don't know. His work on infallibility, second to none. Second to none. And I say that because his work is magnificent. It's not good. It's great. Elite level. And I very rarely say somebody's work is elite level. Elijah's is. I didn't know. Elijah, did they lose? Did they lose to Bosnia? You got to be kidding. Oh, okay. I got you. Good one. Germany crushed Bosnia. So anyway, let's go here. Elijah is underrated, and I call the guy the Titan for a reason. He's magnificent, the very best in the Immaculate Conception, and one of the best in the papacy, and the best on papal infallibility. I can't think of anybody better. He's great. He's fantastic. Let's continue. Let's dive in. What else does he have here?
Catholic Church, the universal church, beginning from the very seat of the apostle Peter, to whom the Lord, after his resurrection, gave it in charge to feed his sheep, down to the present episcopate. He goes from Peter feeding the sheep through the apostles to the bishops. Also, I think a good case.
Okay. Is that some kind of a refutation of the papacy?
Yeah, I mean, if you read that through the lens of Optatus, that's exactly what we believe.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Does he not realize that we believe the very same thing? That doesn't refute papal supremacy at all. You need to be united to the head. You have got to be united to the head. So I'm not sure if he thinks that does refute papal supremacy.
Can you put that quote back on the screen for a second?
Of course. Give me 1 second. Okay, let me pull that up right around there.
From the very seat of the
right there. There you go. Yeah, I'm not sure that he's aware of this at all. I mean, succession of priests keeps me in the Catholic Church, beginning from the very seat of the Apostle Peter. Are you united to that seat? No, you're not. To whom the Lord, after his resurrection, gave it in charge. And what's he referring to there? He's referring to John chapter 21. Right after the bodily resurrection, he's put in charge. He's a poimene. He is the shepherd of the sheep. Down to the present episcopate. Meaning, yes, you've got to be united to the head, to St. Peter. And this guy is not united to the head, St. Peter. Kyle, come on, man. By the way, I think Kyle means well. I also think he's a good guy. He's a friend of mine. But I think I don't think he's thinking things through. And Kyle, I invite you to come to my channel or to go to Alan's and discuss these things. I think that it would make for a very fruitful dialogue. I don't think he's thought these things through very well, because we've gone through quote after quote and they don't support his position in any way. Later on, by the way, the reason I'm not looking at what he says to Jimmy Akin or Trent Horn, I have no clue what Jimmy Akin says or Trent Horn. I have no idea what they say. So they very well could say something that I didn't say. So I'm dealing with arguments he's made towards me, responding. And in particular, there is one that I did a video on that he deals with. He comes up.
Understanding.
Sanctuary, and that's because the mountain is the centrality of worship.
Meeting place of God. Hey, we're going.
After 1,000 years of being unified, is that as one of the bishops, as one of the high priests, viewed himself as significantly higher up than the rest. And this is really the warning that we see in St. Gregory the Great, that if one bishop...
Did you want me to pause it there, brother?
No, I was just waving to MB.
Views himself as above all the other bishops, he will fall. He'll fall like a star out of the heavens. So the bishop is the high priest, as the fathers describe. Now, there can be many high priests.
Why isn't he putting that quote on the screen? I'm curious.
I have no clue. He's being very selective. Notice how he doesn't look over. So his video is supposed to be a response to multiple Catholic apologists, one of them being myself, and yet he doesn't deal with what I lay out about Hadrian, doesn't deal with what I lay out about Pope Gregory. So I think I don't think Kyle's being dishonest. I don't think he knows the arguments very well. Or maybe he's trying to be selective because maybe he thinks zeroing in on certain portions gives strength to his position, but I really don't think that they do. But let's hear this.
And they can have a different ordering among the high priests for administrative unity. But no, the bishop is the high priest in the hard sense. And so we need to really make sure that we take these typologies of the Old Testament and we carry along them through the New Testament, and taking them through Matthew 16 and Peter is totally fine with Petrine primacy in the New Testament. But
the problem is they're not. The problem is that they're not. Because Kyle, there is a model laid out in the Bible where the head shepherd is Peter. And that head shepherd model carries over to the Council of Jerusalem, where Peter is the prime mover, as the fathers say. And that model is later picked up by ecumenical councils, Kyle. So, no, you're not fine with Petrine primacy from the Bible because you simply cannot hold to it. That is my main concern. That over and over you say, I'm okay with this, we're okay with that. But ultimately, Kyle, you're not. You cannot follow the biblical model, and you cannot follow the patristic model because you're not united to Peter. And I want to say thank you to Ralph. God bless you, Ralph. Thank you so much for your support. Hey, Will, I hope everyone is doing well. God bless y'all. I have to go back and watch from the beginning. Ralph, please do, brother. Please do watch and let us know down below if you like it. God bless you, my friend. Thank you so much for your support, brother. Thank you.
You know what? I just want to say this here as I'm hearing Kyle King talk.
Yeah.
Kyle King talk. It pains me to say this, but the stuff that he's putting forward is worse than Jamila.
Yeah, that is why I say I don't think Kyle is trying to be polemical or make the mistakes he's making. I don't think that Kyle truly thought this through, his leaving Catholicism, and I don't think that he's truly fully aware of all of the arguments. Maybe he's read a few things here and there, but number one, look, there is not a living, and I know them. I know the top scholars in Orthodoxy. You're not going to find their top scholars promoting Craig Trulia. That right there to me was a red flag. If this guy is promoting jack chicken level stuff, well, what is the rest of the video going to be like? And the moment I saw him promoting that, I said, okay, if he's promoting this, he's not read the stuff. He's not aware of our responses. And then I saw how he had nothing to say about Hadrian, nothing about Pope Gregory, other than the popular quote bites. And I was disappointed.
You think you could put that Divine Mercy apologetics question on?
I don't know where it is. Let me see. Let me look for it.
It's not that far up.
Okay.
can I ask both you and Rule?
There you go. My bad. I didn't see that.
Oh, okay. Just a question for Divine Mercy. Have you had any personal interaction with Kyle King? I'm just curious because, like, I don't know what's going on in his heart. And I'm not going to try to speculate. I don't know the guy. I've not watched his stuff that long. Like I said, I only heard about him during his apostasy.
Mhm.
But I think I think he wants, judging by his arguments, he wants stability. And yeah, there's chaos going in the church right now, including up with Francis and the Curia.
But there always has been chaos, Alan.
Yeah,
I mean,
and guys, if you don't like Pope Francis, he's not immortal.
right.
Cardinal Fernandez is not immortal.
Yep.
And tons of these modernists aren't immortal. There are good, solid bishops that are young and who are going to take their place eventually. There's really good stuff happening in the church right now.
Mhm.
You don't see it because it's not covered by the media. But there is
let me say one thing. And this is I have the blessing of being part of both worlds. So I do apologetics, of course, in the English speaking world, but I also do apologetics heavily in the Spanish speaking world for Catholic answers and in other areas. And the heavy focus on the bad stuff is 100% American. And well, by virtue, you get that in Canada because it's English. In the Spanish speaking world, and people can confirm here, the fixation on stuff that is bad that goes on does not exist over there. They focus on the good. In the American and the English speaking world, it's all about doom and gloom, all about attacks, all about bad stuff. In the other world, in the Latin world, it is not like that at all. I can tell you, it is maybe a 1% or less. It doesn't exist over there. This is very American-like, to just trash the hierarchy, to focus on the bad. In the Latino world, the focus is on the good. It's a completely different world. Now, I am not saying the bad doesn't exist. Alan, it's been there from the beginning. In the Bible, we've got wolves in sheep's clothing. In the Bible. So if you think leaving the church that Christ founded to go elsewhere because there's not going to be instability and you're going to feel at peace, well, I hate to tell you, but the apostles had their worlds rocked day in and day out. And very often they knew their peace was in the Lord, not in the everyday affairs going on in the world. That's biblical, Alan. Biblical if they're going to be bad people in the church.
Yeah, and like I again, it's unfortunate. Like if Kyle King, if he lived in Mexico or lived in Europe, I think things would be different. But it's tough being it's tough hearing that, and sadly, our opponents, particularly in the Orthodox world, use that to their advantage to try to lure people away. Oh, there's some bad stuff going on in Rome. That just shows that the papacy was wrong since the schism or whatever. You got to return to the conciliar model. And as I've shown, we're more conciliar than they are. In the true conciliar meaning, like not the 15th century heretical version of conciliarism.
No doubt.
That's why that's such a slippery word.
It sure is. No doubt.
Carries on
Anyway.
ultimately to the bishop in a hard sense. And this follows again through the article that we just went through with Michael Barber, which describes this hard connection between an amazing counter response. I would also say this, that when you consider all of the other parts of sacred tradition, that if you compare the Holy Orthodox Church versus the Roman Catholic Church, let's say in your mind, oh man, I could see that both of these ecclesiologies could be true. They're both possible. Okay, well, which one is the more stable bearer of sacred tradition?
Like I said,
today, if you were to think about what an Orthodox
Listen to this.
America would look like versus a Roman Catholic America,
Female
would look like
deacons.
100 years out, which one do you think is going to look more stable? Which one can you even imagine what it's going to look like? I can't do that with Roman Catholicism. because it's pretty topsy-turvy. They've sort of unhinged themselves from apostolic tradition. This is why they can't do synodality. Synodality, if it gets...
So unfortunately, Kyle gets nasty here. Unfortunately, he does. And Kyle, this should be beneath you, Kyle. Unfortunately, he gets nasty. Look, Kyle, if you are oblivious to the homosexual agenda in your church, to people at very high ranks taking pictures at gay weddings, if you are oblivious to female deacons, if you are oblivious to all of the doctrines that have been massively changed in your church, if you are oblivious to the massive movement of universalism in your church, well, I don't know what to tell you, but it's right there, smack front and center in your face. You should know better. So the idea that, well, I don't know what Roman Catholicism is going to look like in 100 years. Well, I can tell you one thing. Your church has changed teachings that are laid out in councils that you would expect people to follow today. Kyle, just the other day, I heard you rejecting purgatory, which you once affirmed. Now you affirm prayer for the dead, you affirm toll houses, but you reject the Cetus Passio aspect, which was front and center there at Jerusalem. What are you going to do with that? And I can go on and on. There's other areas as well where this is just massively problematic.
Well, like say Kyle lived in the year 1700 and he's on the border between, say, Poland and Russia. Like, keep in mind, like Poland then extended further. It's like somewhere close, like halfway through Belarus, the Polish border was. One side was Catholic, one side was Orthodox. And Kyle could have made that same argument, you know, and if he's on a town that's both, he could have gone either way, you know. I could go for the Latin Church, I could go for the Orthodox Church. What's going to be in 100 years? What church is going to look? It's like, I know what the Orthodox Church will look like. Really? Can someone back then know that a politician is going to replace abolish your patriarchate and replace it with the procurator, which is entirely unpatristic,
right?
And who knows? Putin might, or Putin's successor, because they seem to be a sleazy bunch, might do the same thing, or something else that's just as bad, but a bit separate than that. So I mean, I think that's the main reason for his conversion. Like he wants something stable, and he wants to just focus on his relationship with Christ. And I get that, but just stop watching the news. There's a lot of hysterics out there.
Yeah.
There's a guy, I'm not going to name his name, but I'm sure a lot of people know. I think you've even collabed with him before. Mm-hmm. But prior to the Amazon Synod, we're going to have female deacons by the end of the Synod. Where are the female deacons? He was saying the same thing about the Synod on synodality. Oh, there's going to be female deacons by the end of it. Where are the female deacons? Nowhere.
I collabed with him?
I think maybe you did. It's Tim Gordon. Have you ever done anything with Tim Gordon?
Oh, Tim Gordon's definitely, he got that completely wrong. We did one show with Tim Gordon a long time ago, very long time ago in R&T. I don't know if Mike kept it up or not, but Tim Gordon gets a lot of those things wrong. Very wrong.
It's kind of weird because he split with Taylor Marshall, and for a while, Taylor Marshall was like the sky is falling type guy, and Tim Gordon was more stable. Now they've switched. I don't know how.
Be quite honest, I don't follow either of them. I have no idea.
I don't follow either.
None of them. I mean, I like to watch theology, and I don't deal with conspiracy theories or anything like that. So if anything, I'm going to watch a channel that gives me theology, man. Taylor Marshall, I have no idea what he's doing nowadays. I've been disappointed.
Well, he used to do.
Yeah, he used to do theology. He used to be. Long time ago, he used to put theology videos out. But hey, big time theology videos, they don't get the views. So I guess conspiracy theory stuff with clickbait images and what have you. I mean, that's the flavor of the day,
Yeah, like
putting a clickbait image with your jaw droppy, like, wow. I'm never gonna whore myself out for cheap clicks, man.
Yeah, like for me, I'll just say, the two main sources I use online are Tim Flanders, and although he's no longer on YouTube because he's been banned, but he's
Tim
on
Flanders, meaning of Catholic.
Yeah,
he got banned.
No. Tim Flanders and the other guy I use who was banned from YouTube.
Okay,
is Dr. E. Michael Jones. Like that's
okay.
all the people who I use.
Okay, I was going to say Tim Flanders. There's no way.
Oh no. Tim Flanders is he's on YouTube. Very clean guy, very nice guy. I love.
Yeah, good friend of mine. Been in his show multiple times.
Yeah. He's been on my show tons of times.
Great guy. Tim's
amazing
a good guy.
You know, he's not 100%. Over the top. He gets everything from church documents.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's look at this final. Well, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
And I just want to say, well, I think I'll say this at the end because I think Kyle King's about to wrap up here.
Sure. Yeah, he is. Yeah. No, let me put this. Let me put this on.
And so what happens between the East and the West, unfortunately, after 1,000 years of being unified, is that as one of the bishops, as one of the high priests, viewed himself as significantly higher up than the rest. And this is really the warning that we see in St. Gregory the Great, that if one bishop views himself as above all the other bishops, he will fall. He'll fall like a star out of the heavens. So the bishop is the high priest, as the fathers.
Yeah, that he got that completely wrong, Pope St. Gregory. But again, he doesn't do, and it's a bit of a bummer, is Kyle will not examine. And by the way, for people that are wondering, we have done a show already on Pope St. Gregory the Great and the universal bishop controversy. The idea that he rejected being viewed as above other bishops is completely fallacious. And you've dealt with that as well, haven't you, brother?
Yeah, that's such an amateur quote. Like it appears in quote mines online and in really shallow apologetics books. And there's there's another similar argument that I hear sometimes that are very shallow. I'm not going to bring it up, but you can tell these people just have been watching Jay Dyer streams, and they're quoting a source that's quoting a source. It's quoting the source, and the context has been long stripped away. And these people don't use primary sources because who uses primary sources? You know, that's Bronze Age stuff. You know, it's me and William and I think one other person maybe.
Very, very few care about primary. Very few. Yeah, this is the context here. I mean, the context of the rejection is letter 7. Whoever calls himself or desires to be called universal priest is in his pride a forerunner of Antichrist. So this title was not a rejection of the papacy, nor a denial of the unique authority held by the Bishop of Rome. You've got to look and see what is the context. Unfortunately, very often, we don't see what the context is. But you do have it very clearly here in multiple epistles. But with what daring or with what swelling of pride, I know not. You've attempted to seize upon a new name, whereby the hearts of all your brethren might have come to take offense. I wonder exceedingly at this, since I remember how you would fain have fled from the episcopal office rather than attain it. And yet, now that you have got it, you desire so to exercise it, as you had run to it with ambitious intent. For having confessed yourself unworthy to be called a bishop, you have at length been brought to such a pass as, despising your brethren, to covet to be named the only bishop. So the concern is not about having the power of complete juridical authority, but rather about whether or not one can hold a title and be the only bishop in existence. Why doesn't Kyle tell people the context? Why doesn't Kyle tell people that is what Pope St. Gregory is condemning, and not that he is condemning papal supremacy. Indeed, lo, he says, he received the keys of the heavenly kingdom, and power to bind and loose is given him. The care and principality of the whole church is committed to him. And yet he is not called the universal apostle, while the most holy man, my fellow priest John, attempts to be called universal bishop. By the way, this is right after he begins quoting all of this. Look at that. John chapter 21, Luke chapter 22, Matthew 16. How about that? John attempts to be called universal bishop. Do I, in this matter, most pious Lord, defend my own cause? Do I resent my own special wrong? Do I resent my own? Nay, the cause of Almighty God, the cause of the universal church. If then anyone in the church takes to himself that name, whereby he makes himself the head of all the good, it follows the universal church falls from its standing, which God forbid, when he who is called universal falls. But far from Christian hearts be that name of blasphemy, in which the honor of all priests is taken away, while it is madly arrogated to himself by one. But look at what he says here. Do you think he didn't view himself as the head? Certainly, in honor of Peter, Prince of the Apostles, it was offered by the Venerable Synod of Chalcedon to the Roman pontiff, but none of them has ever consented to use this name of singularity, lest by something being given peculiarly to one, priests in general should be deprived of the honor to them. But we, who, though unworthy, have undertaken the government of the apostolic see, in the stead of Peter, the Prince of the Apostles, are compelled by the very office of our pontificate to resist the general enemy by all the efforts in our power. So, Alan, as you know very well, context doesn't really help their case at all, does it?
Yeah, but I mean, and like, it's unfortunate that it takes people like us to, because sound bites are everything, right? Sound bites are, whoa, power was lacking to appoint the Patriarch of Jerusalem. Oh no, it must not be Vatican I. And I have to do all the homework to show the reality of that quote, like I did exposing Trulia's favorite quote, which Kyle King has read since he's read Trulia's book.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's painful seeing people apostatize over arguments this bad. Frankly.
It's really bad. No, it's so bad. And the Pope Gregory argument, I don't know when they're going to stop using this. I mean, look at what Gregory does here. Now, 8 years ago, in the time of my predecessor of holy memory, Pelagius, our brother and fellow bishop, John, in the city of Constantinople, seeking occasion from another cause, held a synod in which he attempted to call himself universal bishop, which, as soon as my said predecessor knew, he dispatched letters annulling by the authority of the holy apostle Peter the acts of the said synod, of which letters I have taken care to send copies to your holiness. What does this do? The quote is important. It shows a Western bishop asserting authority, including annulment power. Annulment power, Kyle, over Eastern synods in Constantinople. By the way, which many Orthodox elevate above Rome. It shows jurisdiction directly from Rome's authority, supported by an appeal to St. Peter, since Pope St. Gregory is also venerated in the East. It really does weaken their arguments, doesn't it, brother?
Well, and like you talked about Pope Gregory, he's early 7th century, late 6th century. And by the time you get to the 7th century, the arguments for the papacy are so good. Like they are, I'm not saying there's nothing prior there. Obviously there is. But like by the 7th century, it's over. I mean, you got Pope Gregory, you got Pope Agatho, Pope Martin, Stephen of Dora, John of Philadelphia, Maximus the Confessor, East, West.
It's done.
It's over. it's over. And again,
Totally
a Prot or a Prot or an Oriental will just say too little, too late.
Yep.
But Kyle King can't do that anymore because he went for the nice and stable religion.
So-called nice and stable. Anything but nice and stable, though. Brother, any final closing thoughts there?
Well, Kyle, if you do see this, we've got nothing against you. You know, I like the fact that you like Chesterton. That's someone I want to read more. I'm not really a Tolkien fan, as I said before. And C.S. Lewis, I'm not even a huge C.S. Lewis fan, but Chesterton, I've only read a couple books, but I've loved them. There's a girl I go to church with. If you go to her house, she has collected works of Chesterton, volume 1. Like each volume is like that thick and stuff like that. So like, I mean, his stuff is good, but Kyle, I think he made a mistake. I understand you're wanting stability, but take a look at the Byzantine Empire. Take a look at Russia from 1722 to 1917. That's like 100 and something years ago. It's like 120 years ago. The Russian Church didn't have a patriarch. I mean, yeah, that's one reason too. Like, but like I think, Kyle, the stability that you treasure, I don't think is there. And yeah, there's a lot of news from Rome, but just ignore it. Just ignore it. Pope Francis said something. Keep in mind, he probably said something in a separate language that's been spun by journalists. And,
Big time, man.
I've like that.
I've seen that over and over.
Yeah, so I mean, just focus on the real things, Kyle. Just focus on.
Even if Pope Francis said something that offends their feelings on a plane, give me a break, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I
mean, who cares? You know, that's not ex cathedra, and it's probably not reported correctly either.
Not at all.
And by the way, what does that have to do with your personal faith and your parish and the so-called stability? Because I think his main craving was for Orthodoxy was he saw a stability that Catholicism didn't have. But I mean, if you take a look at some history, in fact, where is I've got a quote. I'll let you do your speech, and then I will find the quote.
Yeah, let me do my final closing thoughts. Israela, welcome home. God bless you, and everybody else. We had a few people that were on the fence of between Catholicism and Orthodoxy, and some that are converting. For those that are looking to convert, I remember I spoke to someone earlier. Send me an email. Get in touch with me. I'd love to talk with you. Love the dialogue with you. And I'd recommend you check out our book that I put out with the Reverend Dr. Koppas on the papacy. We deal heavily with claims that are put out there by Eastern Orthodoxy, including we show the biblical and the patristic connection to Matthew 16 and Isaiah 22, which is incredibly powerful, very underutilized today, and people utilize it, tend to not utilize it properly. Check out our book in the papacy. Really think you'll enjoy that. I'll put a link down there below. And for people that are thinking of coming home, pray about it. Pray about it. We got a lot more shows we're going to be doing, including because very cool. My daughter is now on Thanksgiving break, so I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of live shows this upcoming next week. A ton of them. You guys are going to see my hideous bald head a lot. Let me know in the comments what show, what topic you want me to cover in my open debate, open mic sessions. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, I just want to show this this quote for Kyle King in 1395. I think you know what I'm going to bring up. In 1392, the Church of Russia, as you know, an Orthodox church, had stopped commemorating the Byzantine emperor in their liturgy, and he had become such part of the church that the patriarch at that, and they stopped commemorating him because at that time the Byzantine Empire was pretty much a city-state, Constantinople,
Yeah.
and it was essentially a vassal of the Turkish Islamic Empire. And they stopped commemorating him because he's just a nobody now. He's the head of a city-state, although he is descendant of people like Justinian and all the great Constantine, etc. And they write, Patriarch Anthony IV, therefore, my son, you are wrong to affirm that we have a church without an emperor, for it is impossible for Christians to have a church and no empire. The Basileia, which means empire, and the church have a great unity and community. Indeed, they cannot be separated. So this is 1395.
Wow.
Imagine if you were making your predictions about stability in 1453. Less than 60 years later, the Turks overrun the last of the empire.
Wow.
Where's your stability, Kyle?
Yeah.
Where's your stability in Russia only a little more than 100 years ago?
Yep.
I mean, the stability you crave is a fiction. This 100 years, like look at the female deacon stuff. And 100%. The fact is, no one talks about what's going on in the, because let's be honest, in the West, the Orthodox Church is absolutely nothing, you know? So it's not going to appear in the media. If you go to Russia or you go to Romania, Greece, whatever, and watch their news, they're talking about the problems in the church all the time, right? Because that's the church that's there.
That's correct.
Like they're talking about Kirill, how he's worth $4 billion, a monk, Kirill, a monk, a monastic, worth $4 billion. He wears $20,000 watches. You're going to see that in the news all the time there. And just think, if you're a Catholic in Russia, stability, I don't need to worry about this. So, Kyle, that stability that you think you have right now, you don't have. Take a look at these things. Come to me, come to William, and more importantly, come home to the Catholic Church, the true barrel-aged faith. And that's all I want to say.
Beautifully said. I echo that. Kyle, come home. Kyle, we are here to talk with you. I consider you a brother, still do. Consider you a friend, still do. And I would love to dialogue with you, my friend. Would love to. My door is always open for you. Just don't touch my beef or my Diet Coke. My door is always open for you, brother. Love you from the bottom of my heart. Even though you put a beautify filter on me, brother. Definitely love you. Yeah, there's nothing that you can beatify about my jawline with all the hair there. But hey, good job there. Good job. God bless you. Alan, you're the man, brother. Thank you for being on. I got to bring you back more often because you're great. In fact, we got to do more shows. My channel is always.
Let's plan it now. Let's
do it. Tell me. Yeah, we'll plan it tonight because I got a lot of time free, and I'm going to be doing a bunch of shows. So we're going to plan it. I got to bring you back. You are the man when it comes to the Crusades and a lot of stuff. Alan, I love that you do first-hand source stuff. You go to the original. You are the man. Alan, I'm going to bring you back, my friend, for sure. Brother, God bless you, brother. I can't wait to be back with you again.
Likewise. God bless, brother.
God bless you, brother. You take care, brother. And we will definitely be back again. So what I'll do right now, where is it? I will remove us, and I'll put the outro music. Everybody, do us a great favor. Please do not forget to flood the comment section down below for the algorithm. Flood it. Let us know. Did you enjoy it? Have you subscribed to Alan's channel? Can somebody do me a favor? Down below, put the link to Alan's channel. And if people have not subscribed there yet, let me look right now. What are you?
It's easy. It's just Alan Rule. If you want to search it, ALLAN space RUHL. My lovely German last name.
Alan is at 3K subs, 3.15. This video will probably be watched, a few thousand times. Everybody that watches it, we can get one person, if you haven't subbed his channel yet, of everybody that watches this video to go over there and sub. Let us help his numbers grow for the glory of God. All glory to God. He's doing tremendous work. The brother is amazing, and he's a rock-solid, great Catholic. I only have top-notch people here. That is it. I've got a strict rule in this channel. Alan knows it. a strict rule. I don't have people on that I think maybe wishy-washy, or I think, you know what, they need to improve or learn in the faith. There's nothing wrong with that. But I have a strict rule here on patristic pillars. I want top-notch material and top-notch people. Alan is top-notch. Alan, brother, we'll be back again soon, brother. God bless you, brother.
God bless, and you have a good evening and a good weekend.
Have a great one, brother. With that being said, I'm going to remove my hideous mug as well. I'm going to put the beautiful Ave Maria music to close it out. Everybody, if you enjoyed it, consider supporting us over at Patreon or subscribe here. If you haven't become a member yet, God bless you all. And you all take care. I'm going to remove my horrific mug now. No Beatify filter here.